Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everybody. And normally I don't call these meetings to order, but since this is our organizational meeting, I will handle at least the nominations as it relates to the president of the board and work our way through that. And then once we have elected a president to the board, I'll be turning over the gavel to that individual as well. This process will be carried out for both for the president, the vice president, the treasurer, and the clerk tonight. So all of those positions as we work our way through it. So at this time, what I will do is I would entertain any nominations for anyone for president of the board.
Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'd like to nominate Bob Bauman for president.
Okay, Bob Bauman. I will make a second call for nominations for president of the board.
I will also nominate Bob Bauman.
Okay, two nominations for Bob. And I will make a third call for nominations for president of the board. All right, hearing no other nominations, Bob, would you accept the nomination?
I would be happy to accept.
All right, so we have a nomination for president of the board, and because there's only one nomination, we can do this by a majority consent vote. So I would entertain a motion to approve Bob Bauman as the president of the school board for the upcoming term.
Are you? You go. Okay, I'll go. I move that we accept the nomination of Bob Bauman to be our upcoming school board president.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Molly, second by Megan. I don't believe we have to roll call. We can do this by just an overall voice vote. Tim, does that sound right? So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Mr. President, your gavel.
Thank you very much. Happy to serve in this for another year. Thank you, everyone. So now we will accept nominations for vice president.
I'd like to nominate Kate Garza for vice president.
From Aaron. Is there anyone else like to be nominated for vice, or have a nomination for vice president? Asking, that's twice, asking a third time. Any nominations for vice president? Hearing none, Kate, would you be accepting of the nomination?
I would be happy to accept.
All right, then moving forward, we would need a motion to nominate Kate as vice president.
Mr. President, I move to nominate Kate Garza as vice president of the board for the upcoming term.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Maria. We'll again do a voice vote. So all those in favor of Kate Garza for vice president, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, Kate, welcome to the board as vice president for another year. Then moving on to treasurer. Do I have any nominations for treasurer?
Mr. President,
Yes, Molly.
I nominate Megan Rosowski for treasurer.
Do I, is there any other nominations? Anyone else for nominations for treasurer? Not for a third time, any nominations for treasurer? Then I will accept, or first of all, Megan, will you accept?
I'm glad you
treasurer?
accepted too, Bob. Yes, I will.
Thank you. I would look for a nomination to nominate Megan.
Mr.
or
President,
to elect Megan.
I move to nominate Megan as treasurer. Is that the? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Second.
Second from Kate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Megan continues to be treasurer. Next up, we're looking for a nomination for clerk position.
Mr. President,
Yes, Maria.
I'd like to nominate Molly Powers for clerk.
Thank you very much. For a second, any other nominations for clerk? And a third time, any nominations for clerk? Hearing no other, Molly, would you accept being clerk for the coming year?
Yes, I will.
Okay, Do I have a motion to elect Molly as clerk?
I move to nominate Molly Powers for the position of clerk.
Thank you. Kate, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan. Again, hearing no other, all those in favor of Molly for clerk, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Welcome to being clerk for another year, Molly. Okay. That takes care of that. So now we go to recognitions. And Aaron Mullen.
Thank you. I have a wonderful group behind me here tonight with our clubs and organizations, our annual activities recognition. And as we get into it, I just want to highlight a few things. You're going to see, again, high numbers and
Your microphone on.
now it is. Are you here? Good, good. There you go. There we go. You're going to see high numbers, high participation, and then on top of that, incredible performance and achievements across all of these groups. And then these groups are, in some cases, groups that you can't necessarily buy a ticket to go watch. Certainly you can with our spring play and Clue that just had a wildly successful spring performance. But we have had the chance to host a few more of these. So this year, for the first time, we had a wonderful Science Olympiad competition highlighted by the work of our staff and tons of student volunteers and making sure that things ran efficiently and hundreds of kids piling into the high school. If you have not been to Science Olympiad, me being one of those, it was tremendous to watch the kids in each of those different categories and different contests, and like many of them are going to talk about explore their passions. So I will start with bringing up speech and debate.
Hello, my name is Aisha. I am one of the senior captains this year, and being involved in speech has made me a stronger student leader because it helps me build confidence and strengthen my communication and leadership skills. Through speech, I've learned how to support others, stay positive under pressure, and work as part of a team. I've also incorporated these skills with my involvement with other organizations where I've become more comfortable taking charge and helping lead group activities. These are also skills I plan to use in college by joining clubs and applying for leadership opportunities. Now, one of the most memorable moments from this season has to be our state trip to Madison. Halfway through the drive, we found out that our in-person tournament was actually canceled due to weather and would be moved online. For the seniors, this was very devastating because we missed out on the traditional state experience and all the memories that came with it. Even though it was extremely hard, our team stayed positive and encouraged each other. I think that moment showed a lot of resilience and teamwork because we adapted to an unexpected situation while supporting one another and making the best out of it.
Hi there, my name is Riot Ebert and I'm also senior captain for Forensic, which is also speech and debate. Speech and debate has been a huge part of my life these last 4 years and I would love to talk about it with all of you. This year, as Aisha has described, our speech team was faced with an incredible challenge. While traveling to Madison for the state competition, we received a call that there was a flood warning and unfortunately was canceled. This, as you can imagine, brought so much uncertainty, disappointment, and worry about having to compete online. Speech is designed to connect with an audience, and as you can imagine, it is extremely difficult to connect with a camera lens that is meant to be your audience. But through this experience, I realized how prepared our team truly was. The dedication, resilience, and confidence we built through the season put us in the best possible position to face the challenge that was ahead of us. I personally could not have done it without my best friend and fellow captain, Aisha, as well as our wonderful coaches. So I would like to take this moment to thank Flan and Doherty for being our pillars of support, our sources of motivation, and the kindest people I've had the privilege of being around these last 4 years. Thank you to speech and debate as it will serve me in these next stages to come. Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Jillian White, and this year I served as the president of our DECA chapter. You can see all the accomplishments we had on the board, so I thought I would share some of the less numerical accomplishments. So our first competition of the year is districts, and having been a 4-year member, it was really huge for me to we had to take 2 buses to districts because we had so many competitors, and it really showed at districts. We swept a lot of events, so that was super exciting. And then one of our leadership conferences throughout the year, the Emerging Leaders Conference in the Wisconsin Dells, we went to that. We had the opportunity to connect with our state officers, which was really fun, and I even got to be a part of one of the TikToks. They made the career ladder, but for our event, so they guessed what event I was competing in, which was super fun. At the state conference, we had some freshmen who I had told them that I made a LinkedIn account for this leadership council I'm on through the state, and they took that to heart, made a LinkedIn account, and I think they probably got over 100 LinkedIn connections at the conference. That was what they were doing whenever they weren't competing. And then at our international conference, we got to go to the Georgia Aquarium and World of Coke, and we had an absolute blast. There were 12 girls that competed there, which was really fun. We got to have some girl power moment, and so we had a fantastic time this year, and it was a very good way for me to end my year. I want to thank my other officers, Molly Schrader, Nora Shalago, and Evan Schultz, who couldn't be here tonight, and then our advisors, Mr. Brett Weinferder and Miss Emily Sommerfeld, for the amazing job they did and all the effort they put into us this year.
Thank you.
The fall musical and spring play.
Hello, my name is Tate Dillingham, and we are here to represent the fall musical and spring play. I've had the pleasure to do the musical and spring play these past 2 years, and it's just a great way to connect with your peers and be able to showcase your talents. And performing in front of a crowd, we each kind of came up with our own questions or for ourselves to answer. And mine was, what was the challenge you faced and how did you grow from it? When I signed up for the musical, I realized that I had my German exchange partner coming over, so I had to kind of balance that along with being in the musical, which was a big struggle for me because time management is hard. But the directors made it super easy. They were super understanding of me having to miss time away from the musical and managing rehearsals and stuff like that. But it's a great way to connect with your peers and, like I said, showcase your talent. And yeah.
I'm George Cook, and I've been in the musical the last 2 years and the play the last 3 years. And the question I was answering was memorable experiences that I've had, and specifically this year, as a senior, one of the experiences that we got to have was making posters for all the underclassmen. And as an underclassman myself, before this year, I got to receive these posters and be on the other side and see kind of the support coming from the upperclassmen. And now being on this side of it and being able to show that support to those underclassmen was a really cool experience for me. And another experience that we do in the musical is Play Pals, which is where everybody draws a different person from either the cast or the crew, and they pick gifts for that, buy gifts for them before each show, and it's kind of like a Secret Santa thing. And then on the last show, you reveal yourself, and that's just also a great way to meet people and make new friends. So, yeah, those are some great experiences I've had with the musical and the play.
Hi, my name is Michaela Grover. I have been in the theater department at Hudson for all 4 years of high school. It was kind of my first introduction into like theater and music, really my whole school career. And I think that one of the ways it's helped me is that I've definitely gotten to grow my community, my friends, and I've gotten closer with my teachers. Obviously have to invite them to all of your school functions, like the musical and the play. And I think that building that community of friends in the theater department is super important to growing in your high school career, because you lose a lot of sleep during the musical, especially during tech week. And also, you're super stressed. You have to memorize lines and music, and it's a lot to put together in really a short amount of time. But it always comes together, and it always works out super great, and it really brings the community together. And we've had like amazing numbers show up to our shows, and that really boosts the confidence of our people who participate both on stage and backstage, especially with all of our parent volunteers and teacher volunteers too. So it's really just a great department in general, and us three like to thank our main directors, Jamie Pelbicki, Ms. Heisler, and Mr. Dan Croy, who really, they're the power trio in putting all of our shows together. So thank you.
Thank you.
FFA.
Good evening, members of the board and administration. My name is Gabby Cody, and I serve as the Hudson FFA Student Advisor. It is a privilege to stand before you tonight to share the highlights of a year defined by growth and passion. With 75 registered members now actively engaged in agricultural education, our chapter is stronger than ever.
I'm Mary Prescott, and I'm the Vet Science Captain. We began our competitive season with Leadership Development Events, or LDEs. These events are designed to sharpen soft skills like public speaking and professional communication this year. 6 dedicated competitors represented us, with a member finishing 3rd at the sectional level and the agriculture quiz bowl team advancing to the state level. Those students are not just learning about the industry, they are learning how to be the voice of it.
I'm William Heisey. I'm our community service captain, and I'm the captain of our wildlife team. And moving into the technical side of our career development activities, our CDEs, we started our CDE season strong with 59 individuals competing at 4 different invitational events. And specifically, I want to highlight Matt Woodruff, who was the first place. He placed first in our Egg Met competition for the National Midwest Invitational.
That success scaled up at the regional level. We brought 8 teams and 32 individuals to compete at UWRF. Our chapter truly excelled, placing 7 teams in the top 10, with 9 of our members placing as top 10 individuals, including 2 overall regional champions, Lily Fall in nursery landscape and Remy Kitchener in milk quality and products.
This monumentum carried us all the way to the state level. We were proud to have 7 teams and 28 individuals qualify for state competition. Representing Hudson at the state level were our teams in agronomy, wildlife, milk quality and products, nursery and landscape, soil judging, egg communications, and egg education. We ultimately placed 5 of those teams in the top 10 in the state, securing 2nd, 7th, 9th, and 2 10th place finishes. We also want to recognize Sam S., who is the state champion in milk quality and products.
So FFA is not just about competing, it's also about serving. Our chapter believes in giving back monthly to help build our community. Throughout the year, our members have packaged meals with Meals from the Heartland, built beds for Sleep and Heavenly Peace, and we supported the Teal Strives 5K to fund ovarian cancer research. We assisted a local farm with corn cleanup after their fields were damaged by hail. And we created wheelchair blankets for the Minnesota VA hospital, and there were many others.
We also made an impact during Hudson FFA Week, from the teacher appreciation breakfast to drag your tractor to school day to activities during advisory. We worked to share the importance of agriculture with our peers. And of course, a special thanks to our Kiss a Cow champion, Ms. Cuddleboy, for helping us end the week with a smile. It was a huge success in boosting school spirit and appreciation for agriculture. Following FFA Week, we created over 45 floral centerpieces for the district staff recognition banquet, which were then reused to spread some sunshine around the school to teachers during Teacher Appreciation Week.
While we achieved so much already, our season is far from over. In mid-June, our chapter chapter will travel to Madison for 4 days for the state FFA convention. This is a capstone event for us. Our 4 state degree recipients will officially receive their degrees. Our agriculture quiz bowl team will compete on the state stage, and I will be completing my final interviews as a state officer candidate. In closing, we want to thank the school board and administration. Your investments in agricultural education allows us to wear these blue jackets with pride. We look forward to representing Hudson in Madison next month. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Mabel. My name's Ruby. And I'm Olivia. And we're all sophomores, and we're officers for this year's HOSA and FCCLA. FCCLA is very new to Hudson, so we kind of combined it with HOSA this year. So a lot of our events overlapped and along with our slides. But yeah, we started off the year with a fall leadership conference at Stout and at Madison, which was a lot of fun for both HOSA and FCCLA. And we were able to learn a lot of leadership skills, communication skills, and able to just connect with our community. And in addition, we also hosted multiple events at Hudson, like blood drives, which we hosted 2 of them, and over 30 people volunteered at each one. And we also hosted a teddy bear clinic, which was a lot of fun because members of our community were able to bring their kids and just get their teddy bears checked up, which was very nice because they learned what like a normal pulse would look like, blood pressure, temperature, etc. And it was really nice because we got to like demonstrate our healthcare skills, and they got to learn and get excited about healthcare. And we also raised funds for SCCLA's sponsored nonprofit called Paul's Party through a tattoo teacher, which was really fun. And then finally we got to attend the Pulse, which is a 3-day medical event. We got to go to 3 different hospitals and experience kind of what the medical field's like by shadowing medical professionals.
Moving on to competitions, members of both HOSA and FCCLA competed in various tests and projects at the regional level, with many of us qualifying for state, and later, even nationals. State was a really fun experience with 9 people competing for HOSA and 8 for FCCLA at the Kalahari. Members attended for a few days and got to compete, swim, meet new people, and attend various breakout sessions. 4 people qualified for nationals for HOSA in Indianapolis for a mental health project, and 5 of us qualified for nationals in DC for FCCLA, for nutrition and wellness, leadership, and childcare. We are excited to see how it goes.
Overall, HOSA and FCCLA have been wonderful clubs to connect with our community, improve our leadership skills, and learn more about career pathways we're interested in. This was our first year of Hudson's FCCLA, and we are proud of how our club has grown with 39 registered members. We are very excited to continue giving our time seeking leadership and healthcare opportunities with HOSA and FCCLA, as well as embark upon new experiences. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Grant Stojan, and I am one of the senior captains of the Quiz Bowl team. This year, we have a slightly smaller group, as many of the seniors that we had in the past 2 years left. But despite that, we still did very well this year, and we still had a lot of fun. So we go to a lot of the competitions and circuits in Minnesota area, where we saw a lot of success at the one at League Play, which is a very big tournament where essentially all the teams in Minnesota come together and is from November to February. It is very drawn out, very long, and we placed 9th out of 71 teams, and we were able to qualify for the national tournament down in Atlanta this Memorial Day weekend, which we are very excited for. Very fun opportunity to compete with the best of the best at Quiz Bowl. Many of our students, as my fellow senior captain could not be here, Austin Clark, and one of our rising students, sophomore Echo Fernetton, have been top 10 scorers this season consistently, and that's been really fun to see Echo grow and Austin really peak as a senior in Quiz Bowl. like to thank Kristen Boers and Jonathan Blake for being our coach and advisors. And if you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a nerd, so I'll stay up here for Science Olympiad.
We like it. We love it.
So Science Olympiad, we had another great year with about 60 members for full competition teams. And a big highlight of the year was our first time hosting our own invitational here in Hudson. And it was a great success. A lot of people who were in Science Olympiad previously in Hudson came to help out. A lot of staff from Hudson and other districts came to help out with writing tests and running the events. And it was a really great opportunity to showcase that we're capable of running events like Science Olympiad and other events such as speech and debate as well. We placed first at our regionals and second at our regionals, first at our invitational, fifth at state out of 60 teams. We got 100 medals plus across all of our teams that competed throughout the year. And it's really a fun opportunity because in Science Olympiad we get to dive deeper into what the students are passionate themselves about in science, not necessarily what Hudson has offered in the science curriculum. Like specifically, my favorite event was Circuit Lab, like a circuits and magnetism class, which is touched in like Physics 2 and E&M, but a more very specific approach to that subject. So, yeah, thank you to Nick Borsch and Matt Anderson for being the coaches this year. It was a really great year.
And I just want to thank this group in the clubs, organizations, performing arts, fine arts. It's over 50 programs that you support and welcome into these presentations and many beyond these groups. So I just want to thank this group. I also want to highlight our advisors and students. As we've mentioned at the end, with the networking and alumni coming back, there were also advisors from multiple clubs and organizations teaming together to make Science Olympiad's first event work, along with kids that weren't even involved in Science Olympiad coming to support their friends. So it's just such a cool network of kids and staff coming together to make a lot of great things happen. And if you've not been to one of those events, I'd like to make it a priority next year to just let you know when they are coming to the school, because it'd be great to have you walk around. If you have not walked around Science Olympiad before, there's things that kind of blow up, pop, explode. So you just got to be on your toes a little bit, but it was a ton of fun. So I'll make a note to make sure I get this group an invitation so you can see some of those things in person that you can't. So thank you for having us once again.
Thank you, Aaron, and everyone for coming tonight. It is, amazing opportunities and work that you guys put into it, and I'd love to see Aaron geek out about some non-sports related stuff as much as he does. And so love the increased participation and all, and just a great job. Does anybody else have any comments?
I do.
Molly?
Go figure. I feel like I'm seeing my people. As an old person, don't laugh at me, I am old. These are the things that you will remember. I mean, there's so many great stats that you guys are so accomplished, and we know that you all work so hard. You're busy, busy, busy people. But you will remember the stuff that you told us tonight, speaking from the heart about the friends you made and the time management you learned about, the funny things that happened. You're funny, like speech and debate. People fear it more than death. We do it for fun. Yes, you guys are hilarious and awesome, and I just hope you remember that. This is a great accomplishment. We're so proud of you as a community, and just keep on rocking it. You're awesome.
Maria?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Echo everything Molly said. You guys are a phenomenal group of students. You are leading in amazing ways and showing others how to just go above and beyond every day and find the fun niche that you have in each of your clubs. I have a quick question. Quiz Bowl, is that math competition? Do I have that correct? Trivia, great, thank you for clarifying. And I can't underscore how big a deal it was that Science Olympiad came to Hudson for the first time this year. And gathered over like 25 schools, all the way from North Dakota, I believe was the furthest one away, that came to compete. The number of parents and staff that had to help, it really was a phenomenal day. So anything we can do to keep that coming back to Hudson, I think it's phenomenal. And kudos to Borsch and Mr. Anderson for putting that on, because that was no small feat for you guys. So I think it was pretty amazing. And the school, all the work that you guys do, phenomenal. So thank you.
Yep, one more round of applause, I think. And I know you'd love to stay for the rest of the, one more recognition? Yep. I thought that was so that would be through.
Sally's gonna come up and, okay, fantastic. Come on up.
Hello. I don't know if I can hear me. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Elia Christensen. I'm a senior at Hudson High School. And this September, I was selected by the Wisconsin Office of Children's Mental Health to be the Youth Mental Wellness Champion Representative, or the CISA 11. And through my selection to be within the Champions cohort, I've had the opportunity to attend monthly meetings with the Office of Children's Mental Health team and learn about the state of mental health among youth and solutions to improve it within Wisconsin. And chiefly, I've taken away from my experiences that youth today are struggling with sense of belonging at school and feel increasingly isolated, anxious, and stress-induced, overwhelmed by academic course loads, social pressures, and extracurricular involvements. And this April, I had the opportunity to attend the Office of Children's Mental Health Leadership Summit. And there I learned about various types of student organizations that exist across high schools within the state of Wisconsin that are focused on improving the state of youth mental health within their communities. And being a representative within this cohort has motivated me to bring what I have learned about actionable solutions to improve youth mental health and sense of belonging to my own high school. So I have identified the need for a student organization, such as there are already across many other Wisconsin schools, to be an advocate for an additional resource for students as they navigate the stressors and challenges of high school, and to bolster and improve student wellness here in Hudson. So in collaboration with Ms. Doherty and Ms. Pierno, we hope to establish an organization rooted in creating more mentally well, confident students who can thrive during their time here in the Hudson School District.
And I want to make sure you weren't forgotten. I just thought that Shannon or whatever, like it. So you obviously didn't need any help. So thank you.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I just want to comment on your presentation to us. I think when you said actionable items, that excites me because oftentimes with mental health, I think we aren't quite sure what to do, and we certainly want to do. So I think as a board, we really welcome those ideas. And I also want to say, I was watching your face when everybody else was presenting, and you were just like so happy for everybody, and that's how we really should be. So I thought that was really sweet, and obviously you're in the right place, so thank you.
Now I guess
Yeah, now you're released. You don't have to stay for the next 3 hours of fun. And that's it. Okay, moving on, we have citizens' right to speak. Do we have any? Nope, nothing there. So we can move on to reports, and we'll start with the Wisconsin Association of School Boards government relations presentation. We have some visitors today. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, some familiar faces as I've seen as part of the Policy and Resolutions Committee for the Association of School Boards, and all of us that have been down to the state convention, familiar faces as well. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you for inviting us. We're happy to be here. I know that a number of the board members are relatively new. I noticed that several of you were elected in 2025, others in 2023, and a couple 2021. So I wanted just to introduce ourselves and familiarize you with some of the programs and services that the WASB offers. But today was a banner day in Madison. We hope that the momentum continues. There's an old saying, there's many that slip twixt the cup and the lip. We got to get a vote on the proposal that's been agreed to in principle. And Chris can tell you a little bit more about that, but we're excited about that. So I don't know which you'd like to hear about first, what's happening in the legislature that's good for schools, or a little bit about our organization.
Well, why don't we start about the organization, I think, just because, you know, we're certainly, most of us are familiar, but as far as that's what even, you know, we've been asked to is you know, the benefit of being involved with WASB and what it provides for districts like ours and those across the state.
Yes, we are a voluntary membership organization. We've been in existence since 1921. We're the only statewide organization that exclusively represents school boards. And we try to provide an array of programs and services to benefit school boards, to make you stronger, to lead you on the path toward better school governance. We firmly support local control. That's a bedrock principle in Wisconsin. And so what that means is that we support control of local schools by locally elected school boards to the greatest extent possible and the greatest extent compatible with our state constitution and other laws. Where there is a question about whose authority something should fall under, we side with the school boards. We think that you're in the best position. You are locally elected. You know your communities. You're elected to represent the values of your communities. You're elected to represent the educational priorities of your communities, and we support that fully. So each of you has a packet. Before I get into that, I want to thank you for your participation in a number of our events the last couple years. And even before that, we've had a good representation of the Hudson School Board at our fall regional meetings. Those meetings are where we elect the member of the board of directors from your region. So we are governed by the membership. We have a board of directors of 15 directors elected from 15 separate regions in the state. Yours happens to be from your neighboring district of River Falls, Allen, Tuchtenhagen. They are elected for 3-year terms by the membership again. Each board gets 1 vote at the fall regional meeting toward the election of a local regional director. A number of you have attended the state convention. I hope that you found that worthwhile. Each year we bring together about 2,000 school board members, district administrators, and business officials, among others. We have over 90 breakout sessions, educational sessions for attendees. We try to bring in nationally recognized keynote speakers to provide you with not only entertainment, but additional ideas that we hope will be helpful to you in your work as school board members. Sometimes it's inspirational, sometimes it's more of a take some notes on this. It's the biggest event for school people in the state, and we hope to keep it that way. It is in the third week of January, which is probably not the week that the Tourism and Convention Bureau in Milwaukee would pick to showcase Milwaukee, but it's a time that seems to be convenient for school people, and for historical and other reasons, we've continued on with that. I know that's a long ways from Hudson, and we've looked at other venues for the state convention. None within the state of Wisconsin seem to fit the bill to allow for as many exhibitors. We have about 1,000 presenters and exhibitors who come to the convention. We occupy a full floor of the Baird Center in Milwaukee, which is, some of you may know that because that's where the Republican National Committee held its convention a couple years ago. It's a nationally recognized exhibit facility and convention facility, and it has served our purpose as well. I wish we could find something that was a little more centrally located, but we just haven't been able to find anything that's...
The hotel rooms as well.
Yeah, that can accommodate the number of people, so there's probably 3,000 people if you take attendees and exhibitors and other folks, and that's difficult to find that kind of space. We also do a number of events. I think some of you have attended our legislative conference. I know, Bob, you were there as a member of the Policy and Resolutions Committee. Some of you I believe you have an attorney on staff who is a member of the Wisconsin School Attorneys Association. We do a spring legal conference each year, and that's beneficial. So let me talk about some of the things that are in the folder. There's an at-your-service brochure which kind of broadly outlines the type of programs and services that we provide. But we have also in the folder a number of online materials that I'd like to call your attention to. And we'll get into one of those later when Chris gives his presentation, and that's the Legislative Update blog, which is what we use to keep members apprised of just exactly what's going on in the state capitol, and things to be on the lookout for, advocacy tips, ways that you can communicate with your legislators to express the needs of your district. In addition to that, we provide monthly legal and legislative update webinars. Those are the third Wednesday of the month at noon. We provide, right now we're in the middle of some board governance webinars that are kind of a follow-up to our new board member gatherings, which we host in each region of the state the third week in April for newly elected and recently appointed board members, and veteran board members are welcome to attend as well. We cover all the basics that you need to hit the ground running as a board member. We go through the open meetings and public records laws. We go through things about public comment periods, how agendas are set, all of that good stuff. We have, in addition to the webinars that we do, and I should mention tomorrow there will be a webinar on governance topics. I don't remember exactly the topic, but there will be one tomorrow and one on Thursday as well at noon, about a half an hour long. All of our webinars are recorded so that you can view them at your convenience. And in that regard, we have a library of about 50 webinars that we call our online learning platform. They cover various aspects of serving on a school board. We go into greater depth on the open meetings, public records law, parliamentary procedure, the board officer roles and responsibilities, general board roles and responsibilities. Just about everything that you would want to know about good governance of a board is covered in one of those online learning platform webinars. We're going to try to work to shorten them. Our first iteration was, some of them are a little bit long, but most of them are half an hour or less. So they're the kind of thing that you can go to at your convenience and watch the video. You can, by watching the video and then registering that you did that, you can earn board member recognition points, the same as you would for coming to events or serving on WSB committees. And at the fall regional meetings, we recognize board members who've achieved a certain level. We have 5 different levels that we recognize of board member recognition points. Not sure if I'm
Mr. President?
missing anything.
I just want to say, the School Finance 101 is so good. Like Wisconsin School Finance formula is so confusing. And I've asked Bonnie a bajillion questions about it. And those slides, like, you know, I've watched most of them, but just to be able to go in and look at the slides and remind myself to understand it, it's distilled down in the best way I've seen to walk through it all. So thank you for that.
Well, good. I'm glad that you found that to be helpful. We often partner with other associations. So in that case, developing the School Finance 101, we partnered with the Wisconsin Association of School Business Officials, or WASBO. We also partnered with WASBO to create a school budget cycle handbook, which I believe you have copies of here in the district. That's a useful tool for helping board members and business officials to understand and explain the budgeting process that schools use. In the spring, we produce an annual meeting handbook or guidebook, which goes through step by step what are all the procedures that are necessary in formulating the budget and presenting it to the public, as well as holding the annual meeting. Throughout the year, we produce other guidebooks that we hope are helpful. We do something called the School District Election Schedule that board clerks and administrative assistants who do a lot of the elections work in most districts find to be helpful. It covers all of the requirements for filing nomination papers, filing campaign finance reports, holding the election, holding the canvass, et cetera. So those are some of the things that we do. And I don't want to go on too long here. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but I want to give Chris an opportunity to talk about what happened in the Capitol.
Sure.
Mr. President, I don't know if now is a good time to ask, but it seems like lots of educational opportunities available, and we've seen that in the emails that we get very frequently. I guess I most specifically hone in on lobbying efforts for finances, and maybe you're going to speak to that, but that is probably my biggest area of concern. Sometimes it feels like you put it out there into the universe, and I'm not sure how to make it work, or who's making it work, or who's supposed to make it work. But obviously we've struggled with that I'd like to say the last few years, but I think it's been a struggle for the last
And
probably.
it's not just the Hudson School District, it's
Absolutely.
all 421 school districts have struggled.
So that's where I wonder specifically with the Hudson School District, since we're a member, what specifically can we come to you with when we have concerns or needs, and maybe some things we might come to you with that is not in your area of expertise, or not in an expectation of people holding a membership. So that's, I guess, where my questions lie.
Well,
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit about our government relations department, what we do. So I'm Chris Kulo, Government Relations Director. Government Relations is just a nice way of saying lobbyist. It's myself and my colleague David. So we have 2 full-time lobbyists on staff for the WASB. Part of our job is direct lobbying in the Capitol on behalf of school boards. We lobby on the positions that are adopted by our delegate assembly, that are vetted by our Policy and Resolutions Committee, and then those become our official positions. A lot of it is, as Dan said, local control, and we have a lot of resolutions, of course, on school finance and funding as well. So while we have 2 lobbyists, we can't necessarily get in 132 state legislative offices in any meaningful way ourselves. We're a little limited in our capacity there. But that is why we spend a lot of time trying to put out information to you guys in a timely fashion that you can use yourself when talking with your local representatives, legislators in your area. We can make some inroads, certainly, as a statewide organization, but it's definitely an advantage for you guys because you're actual constituents of these legislators, and you can provide more specific local examples to them that they often find very valuable that we necessarily. Anecdotally, we can share stories if some of you guys let us know some things, but usually that's a strength of having board members and administrators doing that work directly. So typically when we're meeting with legislators, we're most often with legislators in leadership positions, either on key committees, education committees, and then a lot of times it's dependent on who's working on various bills. So if a certain legislator is authoring a bill that we want to have input on, we'll meet with them kind of as things happen, or they come to us wanting feedback on something they're thinking about doing. We are a strictly nonpartisan entity. We do not endorse candidates for office. We do not make political contributions. We also recognize that our membership statewide is politically diverse. Ultimately, we operate on the directive that our members expect us to be able to work effectively and collaboratively with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. So a lot of times we could be open to some criticism for not, being super strong in questioning maybe a lawmaker's motive for doing something, or we have to keep it professional. We don't want to burn bridges with people while still making our points. Just for this past legislative session, just to give you some idea, we tracked 325 bills at the state level. 46 of those passed both chambers of the legislature this session. 27 of those were signed into law. Of those 27, we supported 8, opposed 0, and did not take a position on the other 19. 19 bills were vetoed by the governor. Of these, we supported 0, we opposed 6, and we were not taking a position on 13 of those. 27 bills passed the Assembly, but not the Senate, and 5 bills passed the Senate, but not the Assembly. Our resources for letting you guys know what's going on, so hopefully you can use that information with your legislators. Dan did mention the legislative update blog. It's on our website. You can sign up to receive emails every time we post something new. Obviously, with what happened today, we posted twice on the deal when it was announced around midday, and then when more details were released later this afternoon. We have a legislative advocacy toolkit on our website. We are planning this summer to kind of overhaul that, but the information there is really evergreen. It's kind of a 101 on developing relationships with legislators. Gives you an idea of how legislative offices are structured. A lot of good information there. Even if you're not familiar with, legislative advocacy at all, it's kind of a 101. Here's how you do it, kind of a school finance 101, but for advocacy. We do webinars each month where we provide a legislative update with our legal counsel who provide a legal update. And then during the budget season, when the state budget is introduced, we do weekly government relations only webinars on Fridays. We keep those to 30 minutes or less, and we just kind of update you each week on what we're hearing and what's going on during the state budget. And we do that until the budget's actually signed into law, which is a couple months. Additional resources, we have a state bill tracking chart that lists all of those bills that we are tracking and whether we have a position on it. It'll also show you what resolution we are using to take our position on those bills. And we are also have a number of pages on our website dedicated again to the state budget, federal government updates, and then advocacy resources, which is
a newer page that we kind of just put up there, and is in conjunction with a kind of myth-busting campaign that we've begun through kind of our social media and our blog, just kind of looking at some of the things that are being said out there that we feel might be a little misleading, and just giving some additional context to some claims that we're seeing out in social media and other places. So that's available as well. Going to what happened today, as Dan mentioned, there was a deal announced to spend down the state's budget surplus that exists right now. This has been going on for months since the Fiscal Bureau identified that there would be a pretty sizable surplus, over $2 billion. Basically, what they laid out in the initial announcement was about $600 million total, just over $600 million total in new funds for public schools. 300 million of that would go to special ed reimbursement, and that would get up to an estimated 50% reimbursement rate by the second year of this budget cycle. So they said about 42.7% for the first year and then 50% in the second year. That is still that some certain, I don't know if you're familiar, it's a some certain appropriation, so it's an estimate. It could be somewhat less than 50% when all is said and done. The other 300 million, the governor initially said it was going into general aids. So typically when people say that, that means going into the equalization aid formula. That, we found out later this afternoon, is not the case. They are actually creating a new disbursement method that would be similar to per pupil categorical aid. This is getting a little complicated here, but per pupil aid goes to each school district equally, regardless of where you fall on the school formula, equalization aid formula. So what this would do is it would create almost a per pupil aid, but inside revenue limits. So because that's inside revenue limits, that 300 million would not be additional dollars you could spend, but it would bring down your property tax levy on your property taxpayers. And I believe that came to about $387 per pupil statewide. So those were the big parts for schools. The other big part or big number there was 850 million to a direct state tax rebate. So they are going to mail checks of $300 to every individual filer and $600 to a married couple as a direct state tax rebate from the state. The other items in there were somewhat smaller, $50 million to the tech colleges to bring down property taxes for those. And then there was a getting rid of taxes on tips and overtime was also part of that. So since that's been announced, it is scheduled to go through the Joint Finance Committee tomorrow. They did put out a notice today. They're planning to do that. And then supposedly to the floor on Wednesday to go through both houses. We've had a couple of senators already come out and put out statements saying they're a no vote on this. Not enough to sink it. It's still not clear, you know, if the Republicans who control the Senate will need Democrat votes. They probably will. We're not sure how many they'll need. It's likely they will end up getting those because there's going to be a lot of pressure to vote for this. But that's kind of the timeline this week of that stuff happening. I guess I would open it up to questions, unless you had something else to add on that.
Yeah, I would like to follow up, Kate, on your question. There's kind of a push and pull being a statewide organization. We have 421 school districts in the state, and they're all in very different places. Some of them are net winners on open enrollment. In other words, they're importers of students. Other districts are exporters of students. Some districts have high property wealth per pupil, and they don't do very well in the equalization aid formula. Other districts, do better than that. So there's a lot of push and pull. What we try to do is find ways, as best we can, within the framework of our resolutions, to try and do things that will benefit all school districts. And so I would point to the special education provisions in this budget. We will be at 50% reimbursement. There'll be about $1 billion.
Close to it anyways.
Well, yeah, close to. We've gone through this before, but to put things in perspective, 2 years ago, the reimbursement was supposed to be 33%. It actually wound up being about 30.6%. This time around, it was supposed to be 42%. It's closer to 35% in the current school year. This time, we figured out how much money it's going to take, and the state is going to put that forward. So that's going to benefit every school district. You won't have to be transferring as much money from your programs and services budget that benefits all students to cover the amount that's not being reimbursed to cover special education services. So that will allow you to keep more money in your Fund 10 budget, your general fund budget. I think that's a win. Now, it's a win in another way, because there are federal maintenance of effort requirements. So, and those go by the dollars the state puts in. So this $1 billion of special education funding from the state, reimbursing all the local expenses, is a permanent feature of our school funding law because of that federal law. You can't go backwards once you've made a commitment to spend a certain amount of money. You're required by federal law to maintain that effort, is the term in the special education law. So that should be a permanent allocation of money for special education services in our state. That's big, because I remember not too many sessions ago, we were at 25%. So we've doubled the amount. Now, we're not all the way there, but that's a significant increase. And that's an area where we put our heads together and said, what can we do? How can we build support for something that will benefit every school district in the state? And that's one example. I think that, if I'm looking at the deal that was announced today from the perspective of the Hudson School District, the fact that it's a per pupil amount and not run through the equalization formula is going to benefit this district. That's $387 per student. It's not going to solve all the budget problems that districts have, but it's going to make a significant impact. What we found out last time, and I think legislators learned the hard way, there's an old saying that sometimes they feel the heat before they see the light, but they did not fund any increase in school aids, and they allowed revenue limits to go up. So all of that increased spending through the revenue limit came at the expense of property taxpayers. And all other things going on in the economy right now, that was a tough burden for a lot of people to bear. I think this is a step toward addressing those kind of affordability issues. The state's going to give back some of its surplus directly to couples, $300 for single taxpayers and $600 per couple, as well as the money that's going in. This $387 is not going to fuel additional school spending, but it's going to give you money that's inside your budget. That's going to be hard for them to take, to reduce in the future, that you can use directly to reduce property taxes, because it is subject to the revenue limits. It's not going to allow you to spend more unless you go to the voters and get referendum approval to spend more. But it is going to offset property taxes directly on a dollar-for-dollar basis.
I'll go quick, because otherwise I'll forget what I was going to say.
We know you will.
And I'll say, when you look at the value of it, going back, 7, 8 years, when I fronted my first delegate assembly, and just sitting here in that room, listening to everybody fighting for what was important to their own district, whether it be rural or reservation or, inner city Milwaukee, and it's saying, this is never going to work, right? I think what WASB has done is it gives a voice to those districts that aren't gonna go down there, aren't gonna spend the time, aren't gonna write their senators, but it also has changed. And just, you know, I was in the assembly this year, even though I wasn't a delegate, just watching, and there is a drive, there is a push for fairness. And being part of the, you know, Policy Resolutions Committee, that is huge now with everyone. Everybody wants it to be fair. It's much less fighting for our own little, you know, things that, because we're never gonna get there if we keep doing that. My question is, nothing on vouchers with this, or?
Well, they get a bump as part of this from the standpoint that they are indexed to any increases that public schools get. So the current law, and Dan can maybe.
And we haven't seen the bill language, but the per pupil payments for vouchers will go up. As Chris mentioned, they're indexed. That's a feature of current law that I don't particularly care for, but it's something that we live with. And so they will get a bump of $108 in 2025-26 and $186 in 26-27 in those per pupil payments.
We're reading our blog posts.
There you go.
Good job.
It's something that happens automatically. This deal that was struck did not change that automatic indexing. So whenever we get an increase in our, either our general aid, our revenue limits, or our categorical aids, there's provision that piggybacks an increase for the voucher schools on that.
Thanks for explaining that. I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much for your part in making this happen. I know that we're all really excited for ourselves and excited for everybody else too. I just have two questions. So the $387, that is actually, just so I understand it, and I'm sure Nick can explain it later, is that is just $387 less that we will not be able to tax, and that will be coming from the state, correct?
Yes.
So basically, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So a person, they will see their property taxes go down in our community, whatever percentage amount that amounts to be.
Yeah, all
But that-
things being
that will
equal,
be backfilled.
if you don't change, the revenue limit is, let's just use the $325 that was part of the governor's
Mhm.
so-called 400-year veto. That's where it's set. That will remain the same. The dollars that are used to make up that $325, if you levy to that amount, more of those will come from the state, less will come from property taxpayers.
Thank you for explaining that further. The other thing I was curious about is the 50% sum certain. So basically, it's just an estimate. They want to achieve 50%, they will not achieve 50%. Just like now, they wanted to do 42, was it? And then increasing, but it's actually 35. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's a little complicated.
Because they just basically, they don't have enough money.
When they were putting the budget together, the DPI underestimated the amount by which special education costs would increase by about half of the percentage increase. I don't know the reasons why, but when they were trying to calculate what 42 and 45% would be, they were using an estimate that did not accurately reflect the increased costs of special education.
And we don't know if they did a better job this
That's
time
what-
around, if that's where you're kind of getting.
little
Well,
bit,
we
yeah.
think they did a better job because they're estimating a higher rate of increase. So
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that we're going to be close to 50%. Whether we will hit 50%, I'm always a little skeptical because we've all been down this road
Right,
in the
we've
past.
seen this before.
At least in that like
We've read the
3%
story and it just-
range but rather than like 7, where
Yeah,
it was
but
like shocking.
Okay.
What won't change is there'll be an additional $85 million put into special education in the current school year and an additional $230 million next school year, and that won't change. So that money will be used to reduce or reimburse you for the costs that you've incurred. Special education is always paid on a reimbursement basis, which is what sometimes contributes to the confusion about just how much are we gonna need to reach a certain percentage. Ideally, we've lobbied for some sufficient amount that, so 50% means 50%, and the state would have to come up with the money to actually reach 50%. We haven't been able to get that across the finish line, but that's something we will keep fighting for. And I think what's important, Kate, to your question is, what can you bring that we sometimes can't? I was in Chris's role for about 15 years before I took the executive director role. What moves the needle are stories. People remember stories, facts and figures. I gave you 85 million and 230 million. You probably won't remember that at the end of the night, but you'll remember the stories that the kids told you here tonight. That's how we can be effective, is to understand the stories that come from your district and come from the other 420 districts in the state. And that's something that you can provide. You can tell your legislators exactly how something's going to impact you. And just as the students here tonight provided examples of how the programs here benefit them, you can do something similar when your legislators are here. I wish there had been some legislators here tonight to hear those presentations, because they would have recognized the enthusiasm, the achievements, and the excitement of those students. And might I say, just in passing, that I felt a little twinge in my heart because my nearly 98-year-old father was the state FFA president when he was in high school. And I know that whatever else he did in life, that was something that he was always very proud of, very proud of.
That's adorable. Thank you for sharing that story. It really is. And I just wanted to point out, we have some very great legislators in our area that are always really willing to come and meet with us and listen and work on our behalf. So we do appreciate that, and we have them at least yearly to come and talk with us. So
Great.
Mr. President?
Megan?
So I totally get why the conferences in Milwaukee and, lobby days in Madison, and at least we drive south for the conference from here.
It's damn cold.
But just, thinking about the lobbying day, it's, for some districts, it's really far, right? It's a long ways, and I should be better at looking at things on the WASB website than I am, but I'm just wondering, do you ever help school districts set up Zoom meetings with their legislators, or share the materials and say, you should try and set up a meeting with your legislator when they're in your district? Like that, to me, I think driving all the way down can be hard. People have to take time off work. You have to have someone watch your kids versus, and again, I may have missed it, like clear guidance on like what to do if you can't come to lobby day. Is that in some of the materials you have already?
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's what we're mostly talking about is when we're talking about you guys doing that, we're not thinking you're driving down to Madison to do that. We think you're doing that here. They're typically, when they're in session, they're typically down there Tuesday through Thursday. Mondays and Fridays are typically district meeting days, and are a good time to get them. When they're out of session like now, they're not in Madison much. Obviously this week's an exception, but typically they're getting into re-election mode and they're around the district.
And if they're not going to listen to you now when they're asking for your vote for re-election, the question is, when will they really listen to you? So I think this is a great time to invite them to your schools, invite them to your honors convocations. They perhaps could hand out awards or have their picture taken with the recipients. You have spring concerts, spring plays, other kinds of activities. I think those are great ways to showcase your school. But don't forget about your needs too. If there are needs that you have, let them know what they are. I would try to invite them as many times as possible, and have kind of an agenda planned. A lot of times legislators will be reluctant to come to a meeting because they feel like they're going to be grilled, or someone once said, if you get an invitation for dinner, make sure that you're seated at the table and not on the menu. And they sometimes feel like they're on the menu. So things that you can do to alleviate that and build relationships, because that's really what lobbying is about from our standpoint, is building relationships. And you want, I'm fond of saying that the time to make a friend is before you need that friend. So, the lobbying day, I think we need to do a better job of communicating that we don't control legislators' schedules and that we do our best to arrange the meetings, whether that's a right decision on our part to arrange those meetings or whether we should leave that to individual board members and boards. We've tried to make it as easy as possible, and unfortunately this time around that came with a pitfall that legislators weren't there, and we had a failure to communicate between those offices and our office, and apologize again for that. But for the most part, the system has worked in the past. It is 4 hours. I just drove up from Madison. It's a long drive. But we certainly do try to make those materials available. We used to, when legislators would, I think, do a little bit better job of publicizing their office hours. During the budget season, most legislators will have office hours, so you can find them at a public library or a coffee shop or someplace like that. And they actually will welcome hearing from constituents. So that's a time for board members. It's a time for you to rally parents, grandparents, people in the community who aren't the usual people who show up to talk to legislators, and have them amplify your voice at those meetings. And we're happy to provide the same materials that we provide at Day at the Capitol to any board member, any board that wants to attend those, they call them office hours, town hall meetings, they go by various names.
I think, with that lobbying day, and that happens every 2 years, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And yes, we missed our legislators, but that didn't stop Kate from getting on the phone and saying, hey, where the hell are you, whether it was their concern or not, or their fault or not. And because of that, we did have our state senator showed up for the first time, and I give Kate credit for that. But while we were down there, we did meet with the staff, the aides and the staff of our legislators. A lot of notes were taken. We got to hear some state senators, Mr. Kitchens, I believe, from Green Bay, which I had to say I'm a little not too displeased that, if Green Bay is having problems, that's his area, and some of the things he said, you're going to get politicians and they're going to give their positions very frankly. And so,
Bob, just so you know, he was a former school board president for 12 years, so.
which is why I really don't understand some of his statements. But so I think there was certainly value to that. How we translate that into school boards getting their own action together and encouraging their school, because we made sure that our representatives knew that it wasn't a gotcha session, and we were very and one of our reps has absolutely no problem coming, actually enjoys it, and part of the community as well. So, but that's just.
I think that's important. I'll just share that part of my misspent youth was spent going to law school, and it's not like arguing a case before a jury. That's a one-time thing. You're only going to see those 12 people one time to argue your case, but the legislators that represent you will represent you for at least 2 years or 4 years, depending on which house. And so you need to build those relationships. You can't burn bridges, because I learned early on in my lobbying career that the person who voted against me might just be the person who was the deciding vote the next time an issue came up, and I couldn't afford to alienate them. So kudos to you for reaching out and building those bridges.
Any other questions from the board?
Just a
Maria?
quick, so this, certainly today's deal was that, I mean, we were hopeful that something would come. I'm just curious, you know, your job for lobbying and thinking about, you know, what's next probably never ends. So what are you foreshadowing? What are you thinking about for the next legislative session? What are you thinking that we should be keeping our eye on or continuing to talk with our reps about that mimics conversations you're having?
Yeah, I think, obviously November is a long time from now, and a lot can change. But I think one thing that's gonna still be a big issue, even with this happening, I think school funding and property taxes will continue to be a huge campaign issue going into November and the next legislative session. Obviously, when they start, it'll be state budget again, will be the kind of that first, or one of the first big things that we'll all be talking about. And I think some of the issues that we'll be looking at next session are consolidation. That's become kind of, at least on the Republican side in the legislature, has become kind of a rallying cry for schools. It's almost been a little bit of an argument of, well, it's not really the decisions we've made in the state budget that's causing all these problems. It's the fact that we have declining enrollment, and there's just too many schools, and we need to, you know, it's gonna be painful, but we need to do this kind of right sizing now. I think, you know, that obviously gives them a pass for the decisions made during the budget the last however many years. But I think it's gonna be important to say, yes, you know, acknowledge that declining enrollment is an issue statewide, but so is, you know, inflationary increases in spendable resources for schools. Just because there's one doesn't mean the other one's no longer important. I think it's gonna be important to tell legislators that we're not like this status quo that just, you know, we're just keeping doing things the way we've always done them, even with declining enrollment. Is kind of the picture that's being painted a little bit. So I think whatever we can do to remind them about that, you know, we're always making adjustments. We're always looking at how we do more with less. Schools are being closed everywhere. Yeah. I mean, but it's happening all over the state, and it's been happening for decades.
And I think we need to do a better job of getting that message out, that school districts are right-sizing. Those are some of the most painful decisions that you face, because people decide where to purchase a home or where they're going to live based on where their children are going to go to school. And those are difficult decisions. No one wants to have to make those decisions. But that's happening all across the state, and Hudson is not alone. So you know, painful as it is, I commend you for taking on tough issues.
Another one that's out there is cell phone bans. I've taken a call today from a legislative office about wanting to do a bell-to-bell cell phone ban mandate statewide. That was proposed late this session, didn't go. Earlier in the session, we passed a new law that requires a cell phone ban policy, but it provides the local district with more flexibility on how to actually institute that. Same session, they came back with another one that was more strict before the other one even took effect.
And to go back to our point on local control, there's nothing that would prevent the Hudson School District or any other school district from implementing its own bell-to-bell ban. You have that ability under the law. You have control over the school district, the care and control of the school district. So you could do that if you choose to. I think some boards or some legislators have heard from boards, well, we're afraid of our community that there would be some backlash if we did that. So we prefer to have you mandate that we do that. So, you know, so we can say, well, we didn't have any choice in the matter. Well, I think that's a little bit of a cop-out. I think you're elected to reflect the values and beliefs of your community. That's why we have locally elected school boards. We have school boards to represent the taxpayers, and we have school boards to represent the students who aren't old enough yet to vote for themselves. And how we balance all these competing interests is one of the real challenges, but it's a very important role for you.
Mr. President, I work for a membership organization that does, I'm not the lobbyist, I'm the number cruncher, but in Minnesota, and not to put something on a to-do list, but when you're thinking about how do we collect the data, you know, to get ready, do you do many surveys of school districts? I don't know who would fill it out, but like, who's closed a school? Who's talked about it? How have you cut costs? Just so you have this sort of, here's the bajillion things school districts are doing across the state. Here's what the average healthcare cost increase was. Like,
We do member surveys.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to talk about the one we're currently working on, but it's always been a challenge to get people to do it or respond to it. Like, I don't know if our response rates have been.
Well, I think this happens at the DPI level, it happens at our level. The challenge is that we don't want to put more work on our members. So we don't ask for things unless we're going to do something with that information. And I think you've hit on something that's very good. We do track news clipping services. We're aware of what's going on in districts. We haven't asked that question of them, but I think we could certainly do kind of like SurveyMonkey type surveys of districts and gather more information that would help us. I think that information could be used as a press release and get that out there so that legislators and other policymakers can see the information. I think that's always valuable. So that's something we can work on. And if you have any ideas on areas that we might want to ask questions about beyond just the right sizing.
I have quite a few, because I do these types of surveys for work.
You have my card.
Same, but different, but I'll email.
And we are in the process of finalizing a member survey that probably won't get down into that many details. It's more about how can we better serve you. But certainly when you get that survey, one of the things you might say is you need to survey your members more often, and what types of information you'd like to see us gather would be helpful.
Mr. President?
Yes, Aaron.
I've actually seen some really good articles in the school news magazine, so I appreciate that as part of our packet that we get. Just a little fun fact, we have our high school president speaking about his cell phone policy that's been very successful, as I understand, in the district. Maybe you want to stick around for that right after this.
Be happy to.
Well, we thank you for your time. It's been, we've taken a lot of your time tonight. I really appreciate you guys coming. And can't say enough that, we've had a past board member that used to say to me all the time when I'd ask a dumb question, it's like, there's a webinar about that on the WASB website. And she said it often, and she's like, it's so easy, even you could understand it, right? So, because she was one that would go to all the financing, deep dives on financing, and I was like, I'm not going to sit in that. But, so the way I would encourage people, there is a lot of information on the website. So, but again, thank you guys for coming, and I appreciate it.
And I hope all of you have your login credentials. A lot of stuff is behind a login.
One thing I wanted to mention is, I know you've done the podcast kind of sporadically and it's sort of stopped, but if you would start a podcast again, I would love it, because that's when I don't want to read educational stuff. I want to listen to it. Like if I'm driving around, I drive a lot, and I really feel like that was such a great way to convey information. That's, I love
Or
a
even take
podcast.
maybe some of the webinars and turn them into like a podcast.
Well, that way, if there wasn't charts or something, that'd be awesome.
Right,
Like,
right.
like pull over, they pull up this chart, and you're off the interstate. We don't want to. No. But
Molly,
I love a podcast.
yeah, you said you're old, and I'm sure I have you beat by quite a bit.
I don't know about that.
Well, I'm going to be 70 this year, so I think I
I'm
have
92. I don't look. I'm so well preserved.
But I'm not sure that I can do the kind of podcasts that the influencer kids are doing nowadays, you know, where I talk about what I'm wearing and what I had for lunch and just sort of casually drop in a few other things, but we'll work on making them listenable.
Yeah, there's all kinds of podcasts out there. My husband is a CPA, and I've listened to many an AI CPA podcast or how to attract young people to being an accountant. So it can't be worse than that.
Okay. All right, well, we'll let you gentlemen go, and let's take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay, we are back in session, and we are moving on to the high school personal technology update with Shannon and Mike Ballard.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Before I get started, I just want to introduce Tanya Krieger. She's our new virtual school coordinator for the school district, and I think this is the first time in front of all of you, so just to provide you a formal introduction. I have her up here because I'm going back to back on the agenda, so it's less about technology for Tanya and more about the online learning stuff in a little bit.
We want to know her opinion on cell phones.
On cell phones? She'll give it. You bet, she'll give the right answer, too. Wow. No, just it was a nice segue into our phone and technology process. So let me just take you a little bit back because you know, like anytime we do a significant change with our students and families, we always like to like start that around winter, spring, and let them know what's coming, right? And I think you know, just being in front of you last spring, I know that gave me a ton of confidence kind of going in, and I was able to share with our staff as well that, you know, we've got a collective school board that's really into this initiative of going phone free. We met with the students last spring to kind of let them know, each grade level, let them know kind of what it was going to look like, what the expectations were, what the consequences, violations, those kinds of things. Really impressed upon our staff, you know, the need that now this was their time to follow through, yeah, and to be collective as one. Because, you know, it's real easy at the high school level with over 100 teachers. It's real easy for someone to say, this isn't that important to me, so I'm not going to necessarily enforce it. Or sometimes maybe even, you know, hey, Mr. Ballard, can't you just be cool and let me have it just this one period? And pretty soon, you know, we kind of tear away at the fabric of what's important. So I just want to say thank you so much. It's been really, really successful. I know, Brian, I think you asked, you know, we would like an update at some point next year, and so that's why I'm here to talk a little bit about this. It has been, you guys, as successful. It has been more successful than I could even have dreamt when I was in front of you to talk a little bit about it last time. The response from our students has been unbelievable. We have great kids at Hudson High School. And I know you know that, and I'm sure everybody talks like that, but I am not kidding you when I say our students are incredible. And that's obviously a huge tribute to their parents, right? Like, we have great parenting taking place to have this level of respect that comes from our kids all the time. We just had prom last night now I'm taking a left, but we had prom last Saturday night on the boat, and the kids are coming off, and they're just, everybody is thank you to all of the workers and the volunteers, and if you could just hear it, you would just get chills. So, you know, I almost view our success with our technology policy is really just almost like a link in the chain. And I think of you guys as kind of at the top, because without your support for the administration to carry it out, it becomes very, very difficult, right? But then our teachers have been fully on board. And not just our teachers, but quite honestly, our entire staff, our EAs, our food service, our campus monitors, everyone is got an oar in the water, and they're all rowing in the same direction. So, Tim, if you want to go to the next slide. I'm just going to kind of, in terms of your update, just going to kind of go over three brief things. This won't be real long, but I'm just going to show you a little bit of infraction data for you, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some things I think how student behavior has been impacted a little bit, and then we've got some survey results and teacher reflection to share with you. So you can go to the next one. Keep in mind, we have 1,700 students in our school. And if you have high school students of your own, you know that phones play an important role in almost all of their lives, right? And so the notion that out of our 1,700 students, we've only had 313 infractions at all, tech violations, infractions, is, I would have never guessed the number would have been that low. Not in my wildest dreams. I know 313 sounds like a big number by itself, but when you think about 1,700 students, 5 periods a day. That is just super, super impressive. And I think it gets even more impressive as we go along. I just wanted to note for you, and maybe it's a reminder, you know, when we put the infraction list together and kind of what was going to transpire, the first time a student was found to have broken our tech policy, we kind of said, listen, you can take a detention if that's what it needs to correct your behavior, or you can participate in our digital reset procedures that our deans came up with. And that is essentially watching a series of two series of videos and then reflecting upon the videos, both their message and their own use, basically doing that 2 different times. And if they did that, then we didn't even put it into Skyward, right? We just kept that as, we'll chart it and you learn, hopefully you learn from it. And I didn't know what to expect with our kids, but I'll tell you, I actually received an email from one of our kids, actually from one of the students' teachers, where they drew some correlation from what they were learning in class in history about the digital reset and the impact it had on them. So it was really cool. So 271 of our students chose that as the option out of the 331. Tim, you can go to the next slide. And then I put on there for you on the left-hand side, you know, of those 313, only 59 had a second violation. And then when you start getting down to multiple violations, folks, that's just an unbelievable success story. And I will share with you, I don't know that you can, I don't know if you could talk to an adult in our building right now that doesn't think it has absolutely positively impacted their instruction, their ability to teach. Early on in September and October, I was trying to take the temperature, just informally with some of our upperclassmen in particular to say, how is it going? And so many times students would say, I didn't think it was going to be this easy. It's really been easy. And I would ask why. And they would say, because my other friends and students don't have it either. And so we're talking more. So just as a reminder for all of you, we allow it before school, during lunch, after school, and then we also allow it during our transition periods, which are typically 7 to 9 minutes in between classes. And it's just been, the students, they don't even, they ask now, like when we meet as a grade level, I just met with our seniors last Thursday or Friday during advisory, and they just report to advisory, drop their phone in their pocket and come on down to advisory, and then they go get it and leave. It is just so automatic right now for them. But I did thank them because they're an important part of that chain that proverbial chain that I mentioned about how it kind of takes everyone. You can't have a weak spot in it. And our senior leaders did a really nice job of embracing it. So it's been a huge success. You can go to the next slide, Tim. There's some of the testimonials for you to kind of look through or read over, but certainly the level of engagement and students talking with one another. And this is just anecdotally, but I will even share with you that if you go to our lunchroom right now, there are fewer kids on their phones in our lunch period now than there were when they were allowed, I don't want to say they were ever allowed to have them, but when they were using them far more frequently. There is so much more conversation in our building. It's unbelievable. So thanks so much to all of you for supporting it. I didn't ever feel the need to come back and go help me. Our staff bought in, and like I said, we have great kids.
Mr. President?
Yes, Megan.
I love this so much. Only 59 kids had more than one. That is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I could have 59 violations of rules in my house one day with 2 children. So like, this is just amazing. I'm so thankful for the work that's been put in, and I think you're right. There's such amazing students at our school, and like the lessons learned from this, and thinking about the mental health spoken about earlier. Like, I think we all know it's not good for us to be sitting there looking at endless scrolling of stuff, but then when you make yourself take a break, the impact that has. So I am so thankful to everyone working at the high school, all our kids, all their parents. This is wonderful.
I don't know if this is true, but I heard a rumor that that there's actually spitballs and paper footballs being kicked around in gym. They're having tournaments.
You
and
know,
like having se-
Bob, I don't know if that's entirely true yet. Maybe if it hasn't reached me, but I will say, kids are back to being kids again. I mean, they really are being kids again, and I embrace it. It's not a lot of spitballs. I don't know where you got that one from, but I mean, it's okay.
I'm okay with the difference.
I don't know. It's like music to my ears when the teacher has to say, "Okay, now quiet down, quiet down." Like, oh, really? Like they want to talk with one another? There's something pretty special and humane about that again. So, I just have a ton of gratitude to the staff and our families that have gotten behind it. So it's been great. The executive director talked a little bit about the push and pull, right? Like you have younger people who are not able enough to vote, and we have to make, ultimately as adults, we have to make the right decisions sometimes for them. There's also a push and pull even within the BRC, our Big River Conference. So we hosted, I think I shared with you, we were gonna host the high school principal meeting here a couple of months ago, and there was actually a couple of principals that wanted to kind of team up and go build, like conference-wide, let's go to just no phones whatsoever. And I was a vocal opponent to it because I just said, our kids, they bought into responsible use. When we met with each of the grade levels, we talked about, hey, we have some neighbors to the west who tried this and it didn't work. And so now this year, they're implementing zero use. Let's not do that. I'm not a believer in that. I don't know of too many people that are not a believer in responsible use. So let's make responsible use work so we don't have to go to that such extreme alternative. And our kids they bought it. I mean, they have bought it. Our leaders bought it. Everyone has. I mean, it's just automatic in our building right now. If you came to our school, any class period, you just walk in, they just go right in and they just put them in that pocket. They don't hover around it at the end of the period. It's beautiful to watch. Erin?
Mr. President, I want to thank you so much for taking the lead on this. It is such an important process, and you have done an amazing job. I have firsthand witnessed this.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
The happiness throughout the hallways, the conversations going back and forth, it is a night and day difference from 4 years ago walking into that school. I'm talking about the high school just to be specific. And I'm super proud of the staff for sticking to this, even though it was going to be a tough transition for some of them. They did a great job. And I have heard, not spitballs, I have heard hacky sack has returned.
Hacky sack's
and
back.
And they were enjoying that. It is back.
It
and
is
they were
back.
enjoying that on the prom boat as
Yes,
well.
they
I
were.
heard. And I love that because these kids, they're craving that one-on-one connection, and the workforce, more than anything, needs this to happen in high school for successful employment later on. So, bravo.
Yeah, it's been
Excellent
great.
job.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else?
All of that.
What was your strategy on communicating with parents? Because very often I hear that parents are some of those that, they worry about school violence or something like that, and they want to be constant children if something happens.
Yeah, I can speak to both of those. What I found with our parents, and I don't think they're different than many across the state in this respect, is parents want to know the why, like what's the change and why, right? And we provided opportunities early on through communicating that this is what was going to be transpiring, this is what was going to be happening. We were going to be talking with your students, and here's a little bit of the why. We had a couple people reach out to me with regards to school safety, but I can quickly bring them down to the SRO, and Officer Traeger would inform you that the worst thing that could happen in the event of something catastrophic or significant with regards to someone entering our building in an unsafe way would be for all of our students to take down communications by being on their cell phones. The one thing that would impede a rapid response is numerous cars blocking the way for our police vehicles to arrive on scene. That would become problematic. All of our teachers have phones in their rooms. They are allowed to carry their devices on their person. So that was, did I have a couple of conversations? Yes. But when we were able to kind of talk through the why, you know, all of our parents, even if they disagreed, they were okay with it, right? We might philosophically disagree, but we made this move because educationally, we really felt it was best. Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
And
you're welcome.
since you're still at the table. next
Yeah,
topic.
so we'll just transition right into some, you know, whenever we have a major shift or anything that's kind of major, we feel like we need to get in front of you in terms of our handbook. We want to bring those addendum information to you. And we're going to be making a shift with regards to our online learning guidelines. So a little bit of history here for you as well. In 2020, we saw a significant update or uptick in the number of students that were participating in our online options. And over that time, we've had several experiences and quite honestly trial with some different models, even within what we were doing. But ultimately, we started talking with Shannon early on. You know, we were having these same conversations with Dave and Sarah before Shannon and Tanya onboarded. But, you know, at the end of the day, we believe that in-person learning is the most effective and efficient way for students to learn. And so we're formalizing that online learning at Hudson is going to be more limited and structured support, and suitable for in-person instruction. So students can still access it, but you know, if they demonstrate some significant readiness, grades, those kinds of things. But we're gonna, and so kind of like with our phones, you know, we want to communicate this early. We want to communicate it to our families, and we want to give them a little bit of time to adjust. And so we've kind of got a transition transition plan for that to occur, so that by 27, 28, we'll return to a fully in-person model. That doesn't mean that students won't be taking online courses, but they'll be with us for the time that they're taking courses under our care. And that way also we're able to better support them. You can go to the next one. So kind of the why. Why are some of these changes being made? Well, and there's no one single one, okay? So just keep in mind, again, kind of that ebb and pull that the executive director talked about. First of all, we're finding hybrid and fully virtual students are honestly, in terms of academically, on the whole, being less successful than their peers. It also has a tremendous impact on our schedule. So when we have students that are on what we would refer to as the term release, that means that you're allowed to leave our building or not be in our building. All of those have to be individually scheduled. Okay, so the schedule requirement, that can be a heavy lift. It also then impacts when they are with us, when they are able to take classes, right? And we're trying to keep minimums and maximums, classroom minimums and maximums, so that you don't get calls saying there's 39 kids in my child's class. We want to keep that balanced. And then also just the duplicative costs of staffing. We had students that were taking courses that we offered in person, but we were paying extra money for them to take said courses. And so the impact on the schedule is very significant. Once again, kind of like I had mentioned with that BRC principals meeting, this was a topic that I had brought up for conversation as well because of just some of these challenges that we're faced with. And a couple of the principals were like, oh, we were kind of there once. We were there once where you are. And it just got to be too much of a heavy lift. So we put some data together from both our conference folks as well as some neighboring districts. And it really, again, not that you can't find one or two or three schools out of the 11 or 11, I think, that we heard back from. Does that sound right? 11. But by and large, many of them came to some similar conclusions. And then finally, something that's important to all of us, and you talked about it for an hour and a half tonight, costs. Cost to support the various models, they just continue to rise. And quite honestly, we're under the belief that it's unsustainable. So you can go to the next slide there, Tim. So of the students who received a failing grade in our virtual programs this year, which is not a ton, but of those, 72% were either hybrid or virtual. Do you know what I mean by hybrid? When we talk about hybrid, we're on an A-B day at the high school. So we have some students that don't come on A day, but they come on B day or vice versa. So they're not even with us every other day. So that's what we mean by hybrid. One goal of the changes that we're making is just to simply see what we can do to reduce the number of failures. And I feel like if they're with us, if they're in our care, then we can have access to them to help them be more successful, to help them with the monitoring and the tracking, which Tanya does an amazing job with. I have to give her props. She can tell me right where they're tracking by week, what percentage of the work that they have completed and what their current grade is with all of her students. So she does an amazing job with that. We have a lot of other data that we didn't bring out in front of you tonight necessarily that just indicates that students are spending substantially fewer hours in the online courses than what is typically necessary to complete the coursework. And so how do we know that, or where do we get that? Well, every time a student logs on, there's a record of it. Okay, so so Tanya can look up a student and say, you know, this particular student has logged in X number of times. Here's how many minutes they logged in each time. And here's a composite of the total number of hours that they've spent on the class, typically being a semester class. Go to the next slide, Tim. With regards to our release, and this gets me a little bit nervous, but I just want you to be aware, you know, that's the number of students that are released by period. Some of that is a little bit skewed, admittedly, because if a student isn't here for an entire A day, then they're going to count for all first, third, fourth, and fifth period, right? So that's a little bit of hard, but that's essentially the number of students that potentially could come and go. That's just an overview of that. Tim, you can go to the next one. Again, the impact on the schedule, so I'm kind of going back to the overview. We have over 300 students that are participating in some format. And so here's kind of that equity component that we're trying to weigh in as we kind of do that pro, con, plus, minus. Those 300 students essentially have their own schedules independently scheduled for them with a counselor. Because if you're on release and you need an A day or a B day off, then someone has to sit with you and schedule the other day. Or if you're a student that is really needs a particular period off, then they're going to want it to make sense, which is natural. That's what I would too. But then that means you're meeting with a counselor and your schedule is getting independently scheduled when the other 1,400 students kind of just, the computer does it and they kind of get what they get. So there's not a lot of equity there. We don't offer custom schedules to our other full-time students. Tim, you go to the next one. So we put some data together for you from our BRC and neighboring districts. The specific schools are down in the bottom in blue font. And essentially you'll see that all of the districts offer some form of online learning. There is one other district that we're aware of that offers some semblance of hybrid. And then we have 7 and 8 students with respect to the other two questions there that you can take a look at. And then Tim, you can go to the next one. This speaks to the costs a little bit. You'll notice even without it being in this format, it's actually kind of nice. So in 2020, you can see we had a tremendous bump, right? We're coming out of COVID. Students are doing some online learning. I think our teachers, most teachers, students, and families coming out of COVID were very, very frustrated with the online model and wanted to get back to working with one another and engaging in some of that social conversation that we were just talking about with relations to phones. But even since that time, so we were kind of hanging in that world, and things were going pretty good. And then pretty soon, if we're going to be entirely honest, release became an easier thing to kind of get, and it became a thing that became attractive. And if I were a high school student, I was a junior, and I could get out of school and take care of an online class, I don't blame the kids, okay? That's not what I'm doing. I'm not blaming even the parents for wanting those things for their kids. I'm just suggesting that we made it really attractive. And so now we went from 580 in 2020 to 1,240 and over $300,000 in expenditures. So that's part of the impetus and that part of this whole puzzle as to why we're moving in the direction we're moving. Go ahead, Tim, go to the next one. So that's it in graph form for you. You can go to the next one too, Tim. So overall, just the transition, and this is the stuff that's going to be going out to parents. We're going to be talking with the kids about it. In fact, I just talked with the freshmen about it. Was that this morning? Mm-hmm. This morning. So we'll be talking to the students about the plan. But basically, next year being a transition year, the one thing that we did kind of safeguard up front for your knowledge is if students wanted to take a course that a core course that we offered at our high school, we said, no, we need you to make that one in person. If you want to take an online course, find another one, but we want you to fill our online courses first, or our in-person courses first. And then in 27, 28, we'll look at no hybrid schedules or release. I really think that that's going to be the inherent mechanism to drive the demand a little bit down for only kids who really want it. We want to support that. I just want to be really clear. Like, I want to be able to support online learning. I think it's incredible opportunity for a lot of our kids. You know, I don't know how about your experiences, but if in hindsight, if I could have went through high school again, and ASL was offered, I would have loved that. Like, I've forgotten a lot of the Spanish that I learned, but I think ASL would have been cool. So we have kids that take that. It's a very high demand course for us. So really kind of neat. So it's not that I'm opposed to it. I think we just have to kind of bring things together and put kids in a position where we can support them. So students will be expected to be full-time. Core graduation and course offered at the high school must be completed in person. So that is specifically, I think, going to be related to freshman and sophomore years stuff. You know, English, we can be somewhat flexible with that with some of our English credits after English 11, which is their first semester of their junior year. We can kind of work with them on some of those things. But like English is also an example where we know that the 9th grade online course is called English Honors, and that honors word just grabs people. But we've also looked at the curriculum and compared it to our own, and our own is actually more rigorous in person. So it's like, well, we really want them to experience our in-person. If they want to do both, they can knock themselves out. But we really do want those graduation requirements that we're requiring of all of the kids that walk across our stage. If they're not going to be fully virtual, we really want them to go through those with us. Limits in online courses. You know, freshman schedules are already so darn full, and there's a part of me that really wishes that they all had a study hall, if I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, because then again, we have that English and math support, and we could intervene with them early on. But offering that first online course each semester seemed like a relatively reasonable landing spot. We do ask that any student that's going to be participating in online tries it out successfully with a course before we start adding on too many. But at the end of the day, we're just looking for a framework that reinforces the rigor that I hope you join me in expecting, and then prioritizes in-person learning, and that we're using some of that online coursework intentionally. You can go to the next one, Tim. Bigger picture, this is just kind of maybe more for you, but it will be a part of our addendum as well. That, you know, we have some core principles: eligibility and accountability, and then administrative oversight, because we are going to run into some scenarios, I'm sure, where we're going to want to be a little bit more flexible here or there. We're going to want to be able to work with the family and just ask for your support and trust in making those decisions on behalf of the kids in the district. And then just some other additional information there to support our direction. That was a lot of me talking. I'm so sorry.
Tanya, did Mike miss anything that we should
Did I
know?
miss anything, Tanya?
Just the opportunity still for students to be able to be fully virtual, if that's what works best for them and their family. And that is supported through our Hudson Virtual Charter School.
Yeah, and that group does a lot of really good work. We want to support that if that's how students learn best or that's what's best for their family. We're just, right now, we have kind of a foot in both pools with the hybrid. And it has just been, it's been difficult for, I think, most involved oftentimes.
Just, you know, I know when we started this program, I talked a lot with Dave Granville back and how other districts were doing it, how we were building ours, and the hybrid came up. I think originally it was like, well, many kids learn differently, obviously. And some will totally excel in total virtual or hybrid or whatever. You know, some of the numbers are troubling that we see there. And then you see some of the graphs where what the other schools, what they're doing. And so obviously many districts are kind of taking a second look at this. And while I hate to, you know, I'd like to encourage flexibility in how we deliver education, I'm sure there are some great stories for that it works awesome for the hybrid for certain learners.
There are many really good stories out there of how it's worked for them,
So I don't want-
particularly when they're in person and they're taking 1 or 2 online courses. Oh my goodness, yeah, there's a ton.
So that's just my basic.
Mr.
uneducated
President?
thought on that. Yes.
Oh,
Megan.
I think this is, you know, the increase in cost is one, you know, and I really think it's a great move to make sure that students are taking the core courses that are already offered, required for graduation. Why are we gonna pay for them elsewhere, or pay for it twice? And I also, to me, this kind of dovetails with the phone policy, you know, like there's that in-person, there's being with people. For students who are fully online, totally get it, but I would have taken as much early release as I could get as a kid. Would I have done as much homework? No. So I'm really excited about how this is being done. To me, you know, it's not as stringent as the college courses, which makes sense, and it gives people a chance to take courses that the high school can't afford to offer, but it's making sure kids are at our schools during the school day unless they're fully online, and I really am happy to see this.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Megan said. I think having firsthand experience with 2 kiddos who have done virtual, I think where this has the potential, just putting on the table for consideration, right?
Yeah.
The kiddos who are saying, I want to do this core piece online so I can open my schedule up so I can take a second math or science or something else in person at school.
Yeah.
So and that flexibility to kind of work with, and I know Tanya, you work so closely with the families to try and understand how and what are we trying to achieve here, what do we got, and help students kind of hone that in, and it's a lot of work. So really appreciate all of the work that you do. I fully acknowledge this is not an easy Tetris thing when we're talking about online and in person and how are we making it all mesh. I love the idea of kids being in person. I think it is so critical, and even, you know, it just gives them that support of having those connections and the teachers there. And our teachers are pretty darn amazing and work really hard to create some pretty amazing class opportunities. I just know there's a bunch of kiddos out there that are looking at this as an opportunity to say, how do I get a little bit further in math so that I can do some of those other learning opportunities through UWRF in my junior and senior year? How are we thinking about those? Food for thought, putting that on the table.
No, and I love it, and I can speak to it a little bit. Remember, we had that little bullet in there that talked about administrative oversight, right there. Oh, you just went one more down. There you go, last bullet. That's where I'd really like to be able to leverage Tanya and her relationships with those families and be able to say, because we have some students, I mean, you know this, they come and talk with you almost every year that are really, we would all refer to as high flyers, right? Like they are wanting to take not only our 7 or 8 classes, but they want to challenge themselves and take these other courses. I mean, you've had kids in front of you that have taken a full schedule plus 3 additional classes at one time, just so they can go take the AP test, which they score 4 or 5 on, right? I mean, They're amazing. We don't want to stop that. That's not the intent. That's not the intent at all. The intent is, let's have them here, particularly for when they initiate or are taking that second online course, so that if we check in, because Tanya checks in, and we're approaching the end of the first quarter and they're 5% complete, we have access to them. They're not on release at home. They're right here. We can go touch base on the shoulder and say, we really need to get this thing going. So that's more of the intent of it. Does that make sense? But it's not to stop, it's not to make any roadblock or blockades for the kids that want to go above and beyond. And that's why I wanted to make sure we
Thank
had
you
that
for that.
bullet in
I
there.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
again,
absolutely.
I cannot imagine the Tetris that you guys walk through, just with scheduling and then the work Tanya does. Like, I know it's
She's
a lot.
been
So
amazing.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's huge supports.
Mr. President?
I am curious, as WVS presented to the board, at the beginning of last school year, and they reported nothing but success. This board was very excited I wasn't on the board at the time here. I was actually on the WVS board at the time, and it was unanimous success, and everything was great, and it appeared to be very well supported, and it also seemed that it was budgeted for. So my question is, what changed in less than a year?
Yeah. Are you talking about from the board's perspective or
I'm
mine?
in general, what changed in a year that this number is $300,000? Was that not part of the budget when we put this together and approved it and said, yep, keep going, this is good? Another just piece, formerly being on that board, it was, how do we grow? How do we properly sustain? How do we grow to where it's sustainable? And how many kiddos do we need to bring on to balance it out? And so I'm just there's a lot of different pieces here. I'm wondering why we would be taking steps. To me, it sounds like we're taking steps backwards in hybrid learning, and technology is driving our world. We just had a discussion at the last meeting on nothing but AI and implementing it in this district. And I'm very shocked to hear that we would be removing a hybrid option when this has grown 50% nationwide for being part of regular curriculum. And I think it's a mistake, to be quite frank.
Well, I think we're
Can I
talking
just
about,
chime in
it's the
real-
difference between the charter school.
Yeah.
That's the charter
That's what I
school.
think, yeah.
The charter school, the WVS charter school, we did budget for that, and right now we have 8 full-time students, and those are open enrolled students. So we did budget for those 8 open enrolled students. This is a separate budget. It's separate. The high school students that are taking these courses is separate from the charter school.
And it's not WVS. WVS is Wisconsin Virtual School. It is the Hudson Virtual Charter School. So I just don't want people to get confused that
Two
are watching.
different entities, yep.
Yeah, the Hudson Virtual School is the curriculum in which we purchase, the system in which we purchase. And people have to understand, the Hudson Virtual Charter School Board oversees the Hudson Virtual Charter School. They don't oversee this part of the system. Students that are Hudson School District, or Hudson High School students that happen to be taking virtual classes through the system. So, and I think that's the biggest piece, and as we talked about this, it's a 35% increase in the number of course requests in 1 year. That's why the budget's being blown out of the water with it. We didn't have those kind of increases going into this year. And I think the other piece is we are already budgeting and paying to have staff teach these classes. And so I think that's the biggest piece. It is trying to find that balance and in what we want to do with this. But I think, as we continue to lay these pieces out, we'll always look for a balance as we go through this. And I think if kids want to do fully virtual, that option's there. If kids want to do somewhat of a hybrid program, that option's still going to be there. It's just going to be scaled down a little bit. And,
Well,
and we're also.
actually, it says in here that is being eliminated. It was very clear that is the hybrid is going away in next year.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they can
That's
take a
my
virtual
concern.
course. I mean, they can take a virtual course. They just can't come every other day to school or things like that. But they could still take virtual courses and in-person courses. Just, they wouldn't
Just
be.
let me speak to that too a little bit, if you don't mind. If we got to the point where we're gonna approve a third class, for example, a third online class, we can have that conversation if some students learn better online, but what I'm really trying to drive is, let's do it in school. That's really my primary drivers, because the truth is that our hybrid students in particular are the ones that are struggling the most. And I would really, we can't help them if they're not here. We have a lot of resources.
So when
to
you say
support.
here in the school, do you mean in
I
the
mean-
media center? And,
Yep. Yep, they'll take it in the media center where Tanya will have access to them. That's where her office is. My vision is we have 4 courses. So like Mrs. Petermeyer does a marine biology this year. This is her first year. So because it's her first year, she's using the WVS curriculum, right? So we're paying $300 for every one of those students to take that course under her purview or her guidance. Next year, she'll provide the curriculum herself, so that cost will go down to $100 per person. My vision is for us to be able to have those students go take it and report to her. Might be in the LGI, we might have 50 kids, I don't know what we'll have, but we'll figure it out. But have them be with her. They can still work on their online stuff, they can work on other classes. That independence will not go away. But the resource to ask questions in the event that you have troubles, or for her to be able to monitor their progress and help them learn how to be an online student, will be there. And it's not now. It's not right now. And that's a concern.
I'm just a little confused because the success rates that we've continuously heard in those meetings has been very good with proficiency. This is the first time that I'm hearing that 72% of the failing grades are tied back to students with hybrid and full virtual. It just, something isn't adding up, and of those 72%, are we talking about the 12 students that were enrolled in the charter program, or are we talking about 72% of the failing grades in the hybrid portion? Can you answer that?
Do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer?
Yeah, so the failing grades are very low. So 72%, that's of 36 total failures out of 600 and some courses. So those 24 failures, that's the percentage of failures, it's about half and half between students that are charter school students and students that are Hudson High School students. But that percentage is of those students that were fully virtual or hybrid.
Okay.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Okay. Nick, do you have anything more with this?
No, we just, as we continue to kind of make adjustments in how we operate, at the high school, we want to create options for kids. We also want to have guide rails. We've heard loud and clear from the board, especially with the AI discussion, that guardrails are very important. And so that's what this is about putting the guardrails in place. And making sure we still have opportunities for kids, but yet, there are these guardrails in place. And so, I commend both Mike and Tanya and Shannon and everybody that's been working on this. And we do have great kids, and they do great things. And we're very fortunate to have these things. And so, looking forward to continuing to make adjustments and tweaks as we roll through it. So just wanted to make sure the board was kind of up to date as the direction as we're moving administratively. So appreciate it. Thank you.
So does anybody else think they need any more information from Tanya or
It's Mike.
Mike? Thank you. About this, because I think I understand it, but there's a lot of moving parts to this, and I just want to I understand what I'm seeing here, But, you know, I too, like, the full virtual versus I'm trying to gather where are these higher failure rates? You know, if we can pinpoint it, is it right to that? Or is it right to, you know, I mean, I used to schedule 7th and 8th off, and we had an open campus when I was in high school, and I left school and I went either right to football or right to, you know, the Red Owl to work till 10 o'clock. I didn't study, I didn't do anything, but I mean, so, I don't know that I'm not claiming there's widespread abuse or whatever, but we do have to be concerned about those numbers, about the success. I mean, flexibility is great, but if it means, you know, less prepared students and a higher failure rate, I have concerns. So, I mean, I appreciate trying to do this balance.
Yeah.
Yes, I, you know.
Mr. President?
Yes, Aaron.
I'm wondering, is there a way that with, you know, for example, charter schools in general are held to a higher proficiency level standard? I'm wondering if WVS, or I'm sorry, the charter school has that on it already, number one. And number two, if that's something you could implement for hybrid or anybody taking additional online classes, that they have to meet a certain proficiency level in order to participate in it. Example, a C- or above, to make it worth, so you know that they're doing the work and they're putting that effort forth, and giving them incentive to continue and to strive in the program.
We could, yeah, the short answer to that is yes, we could go down that path. I will share with you too, though, Aaron, there's with AI today, there's a level of where I mean, for any of us to sit and guess what is happening, both in person and online, we run into some challenges, right? And so, you know, by way of example, just in the last week or so, Tanya and I were talking, and there was a particular student that's a senior that we're trying to get across the finish line to graduation so they can walk, okay? We just learned that they completed their online semester English class by logging in 5 times for an aggregate total of under 6 hours and passed the class. Now, by way of example, if they go in person over the course of the semester, they're going to be with us for over 60 hours, roughly 66 hours. This student was not a really strong academic student, completed the course in under 6 hours. Now, neither one of us want to start laying claims or being in that position, but because they're not with us and we're not tracking them and talking to them and seeing and talking about what it is that they're pulling away, it's very, very difficult, right? And so that is kind of becomes the challenge, I think, for both Tanya and me. I do know that anecdotally, when I talk to seniors, when I talk to people who have graduated, they'll be like, "Oh, Mr. Ballard, you know, online was pretty easy. You know, that was, if you wanted it to be easy, you could make it easy." Well, there's a little bit of give and take with that, right? Kind of like the executive director talked about. There's a little bit of give and take. Like, does it bother you? I don't know, but when it comes to students taking half their courses and not being with me, now it bothers me. I'm worried a little bit about academic integrity. They all walk across the stage and receive a Hudson diploma, and that means a lot to me. So I want there to be a bar, you know, and so I hear what you're saying. I just think that if we don't have them with us, I think it really is hard. Not to mention then all of those other layers, right? Like, now they're gonna need to meet with their counselor, so then it's gonna bind the schedule more. Where if all of them are always with us, we can have everybody just scheduled. The computer can schedule everyone, and whenever they end up up in the media center or wherever they end up in that class, it kind of takes care of it.
How do you prevent them from doing that in the charter school then, when they are fully virtual? I mean, there's no guardrails
We
at
do
all?
not have guardrails right now. I mean, that is just the honest
Are those
truth.
gonna be something that will be implemented next? I mean, how do you even do that?
I don't know that there's a
We might have
tool
to
out
do
there.
in-person testing. I mean, this is some of the things that's happened where
It's a good
we've required them
suggestion.
to
Yeah, that is
come
a
in
good
and take
suggestion.
in-person testing if they want to be part of our virtual program.
It's a great idea.
So,
Great idea.
Mr. President, can I make a suggestion? This is a it feels like it's growing into more of a substantive conversation. I wonder if maybe there's an opportunity for Tanya to do, and Mr. Ballard to watch how things are unfolding and come back to us, you know, partway through the new school year and talk about how things are going. Tanya, you're new to your role. Give you a little bit more time to kind of dive into the data, understand what's going on, and kind of help us better distinguish between what's going on with the new things that you're having versus what's going on maybe with Hudson Charter Virtual School. And Nick, I wonder if we could have a presentation from you helping, because new to the board, I'm not quite sure what our role is in supporting the Hudson Virtual Academy and that board and what's going on there. And I think there's been some discussion about standards. And so my interest is perked, and I would love for you to present on what those standards are in regards to the charter school versus Hudson High School, so we can all understand.
You bet.
Thank you.
It's a great idea, Maria, and I would even double down, and I would say, you know, maybe we meet this time next year, but you remember next year's gonna be pretty similar to this year. Maybe we need to do it back to back, you know, where we come back the year after we've done it and say, now, how did that go as well as we had hoped? What are some of the results that we have, and do we still have some students that we don't feel strongly about, or do we feel like we're on the right track? Because no one's doing this to hurt kids or families, right? This is just about trying to hold a semblance of rigor and expectations and support. At the end of the day, support. Like, we can't help those that aren't with us to help.
Very good. Thank
Thanks,
you. Good,
everybody.
great discussion.
Yeah,
Good questions.
appreciate it. Have a good night.
Yep. Thank you very much. Moving on to superintendent's reports.
You bet. So I'll be brief on some of these. Just a reminder, graduation is coming up on Friday, May 22nd at 7 p.m. Tim will be sending you an email that'll have kind of specific information as far as where the board needs to be, where they park, all those different components, but just putting that out there so it's on your radar. Also want to hit on end of the year activities, the building celebrations of the two buildings that will be closing at the end of the year. I don't know, Tracy, if you want to touch on them.
Sure. First, I'd like to thank the parents and the community members who have worked to put these two events together. So May 31st, starting at Willow River. Willow River, what the parents are planning there are more kind of guided tours, students helping with those, a little less formal than what Holton is having. Holton will have an actual program starting at 4 o'clock. Just different activities at both, but both planned by the parents and community members of those two school communities. So if people can come out, that would be great.
Very good. If no one has any questions, then we can move to enrollment update.
You bet. So just, you know, this is that time of year when you guys are going to start seeing this document, basically at every meeting, kind of where we're at enrollment-wise. So we have done our boundary exceptions. We have done our open, open enrollment from Willow and from Holton. So Willow and Holton that have already been, that were already open enrolled in, you know, we did place those students as well. So you can kind of see where our class sizes are sitting. You know, and this is a moving target. So this is, you know, this is about a week old. It's changing, you know, every day it changes. Some days it's up a couple kids, sometimes it's down. But right now we're trending in a pretty good direction. And where we're at, we did have with the boundary exception process, I think there were 9 total boundary exceptions we were not able to honor. The people that requested boundary exceptions out of 41, I think, 40 even. And they were primarily in 2 different areas. It was 4th grade at North Hudson and 5th grade at Hudson Prairie. Otherwise, we were able to honor most of the other boundary exceptions that people requested. And so we'll continue to kind of keep you posted with the enrollment. But right now, things are shaping up. You know, our kindergarten numbers are not where we were hoping for them to be. We're hoping we're going to pick up some more. We're right around 239, 240, and we're going to keep an eye on that. Overall, this number represents a, downward, we're down probably about 60 to 80 students from where we were this time last year. So, questions?
Mr. President? Nick, I was just, I went back to last May 27th enrollment update and looked at, kindergarten through fourth grade at that time. And so taking the kindergartners last year and comparing them to this year's first graders and so on through fifth grade. And looking at it, it looks like we're relatively flat first through fourth grade, up 7, down 5. But then fifth grade is a bit lower, 17 kids lower. But just frankly, so I'm just sort of trying to get at what's going on. It doesn't look like the current kids are going anywhere. But the kindergarten is 70 kids smaller than first grade next year. And I'm just, where are those kids? It's kind of shocking. 70 kids.
Yeah, it's a huge number. And so for the longest time in Hudson, we had what was called net immigration. So we would start with classes, that might be in the, 300 at kindergarten. By the time they got to 12th grade, they'd be, like we graduated last year, 468. And we just have not seen that immigration. And so, it's going to continue. It's going to continue to be a challenge for us. If this coming year's kindergarten class starts to become indicative of what our elementary class sizes are, or the number of students enrolling. We're currently built around 84 sections here. That would mean over the next probably 4 years, we would probably be built around closer to 72 sections at the elementary. Just to give you some level of perspective, 10 years ago, we were 117 sections. And if you look at our class size guidelines, we're keeping them within the class size guidelines. Typically this time of year, you'd see sometimes more green, sometimes some red in there and things like that. Yeah, it's really hard to know. We were anticipating being more like 290 in kindergarten, according to just birth rates and things along those lines. However, we also were somewhat concerned with even the 290 number, because when we looked at the 4K numbers in the last 3 or 4 years, what our our number of kids that we had in 4K and what that actually yielded for kindergartners was actually quite a bit less. And so this is aligning closer to what that's been. And our 4K numbers, I think, have been somewhat artificially high because we've had a pretty large number of open enrolled into 4K, and that has to do primarily with our, we have some of our private providers and things like that where they're already sending their kids to daycare, maybe at those providers, but they always were intending to have their child go to kindergarten in their home district, and so then they rescinded their 4K, or they currently were taking the system like at one of our parochial systems, and then as they come into kindergarten, they're no longer part of the public school system, so then they no longer are considered open enrolled in. But it's, we're not losing kids, they're just not new ones coming in, and so, we've talked about this for the last probably 5 years. People say, oh, well, it's what you guys are doing, and people are choosing, to take their kids out. Well, usually when people come here and they experience the Hudson School District, they like their experience. It's just, we're getting fewer kids coming into that system.
What strikes me in this conversation is something I think the board's talked about, as we consider the really hard decision to do school closures, is we have a housing issue. If we're not getting that net migration in, that means the people that we have are choosing to stay here, but we're not getting new families. And it's a hard move to move within our district and find a house that families with young kids can afford. And people are choosing to age in their homes, which is fair and fine. But this is not an issue that the administration or this board can tackle. It is an issue that we need to be talking more pointedly with our other elected officials at the county, at the city level, at the state level and it is a multi-pronged approach to figure out how we are going to address it. Because the amount of housing that we would need to have to try and drive some of this back up is staggering. And there's no amount of development that's in plan right now that will address this. It's really concerning to me, Nick, that you would say we could go down to 72 sections in the elementary. Then we're facing another big problem coming pretty quick here in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that, I think that housing is an issue, but as you heard Dan and Chris talk about, this is happening all over the state. Had conference superintendent meeting last week. I think every one of the districts in our conference is experiencing decline in enrollment, and they are far more affordable to live in those places than where we are. So I think what's happened for us, and the reason why we've taken such a hit so quickly, is because of the affordability factor. But even if you look at all of the school districts in St. Croix County from last year to this year, every single one of them was down in students, even though they have much more affordable housing in some of our surrounding communities. So I think, this is, it's going to be somewhat of the new normal. So even when we talked about, closing buildings, as we sit for next year, having space for all of our 4K programming and still having 6 empty classrooms with closing 2 buildings. And so if we did drop to 72 over the next 3 years, we'd have about 18 empty classrooms plus our 4K programming. And, one of the things we're doing with the 4K and the wrap care, we originally were planning on having 4K and wrap care in every single building, but what we're finding is we may not need wrap care in every single building, so we might have to bus some kids to consolidate because we may just not have enough kids to be able to offer it, people requiring it and things along those lines. And so it's just going to continue to be a little bit of a challenge for us. So, but that's kind of how we're sitting with enrollment, and we'll keep you posted. I mean, I believe we'll go up a little bit from here, but we're probably not going to go up more than, a handful. Because one of the things that we know is the new kids coming in, or the parents that are coming in, they let us know, but the people that are leaving, usually they don't let us know until the first day of school, and they don't show up, and we're like, where are you at? Oh, sorry, we moved. And so, it's just not, at this point, we don't get too excited if the numbers start to pop up until, we get into that July and August timeframe. So, all right, that's all I have on that.
Thank you, Nick. Moving on to topics of discussion, I'd entertain a motion to approve the first 3 consent items.
Mr. President,
Megan?
I make a motion, I move to approve the consent items and that the chief financial and operations officer be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $1,057,041.11.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Aaron? Yep, second from Aaron. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Going on to Board of Education meeting schedule.
So this is the meeting schedule that you guys saw at the work session. The recommendation would be approve it. It falls along the same lines of what you have set out in policy. So, any questions?
Entertain a motion.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the Board of Education calendar as presented.
Second?
Second from Kate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion passes. Moving on to C, recording of work sessions.
So just to give a little bit of background, because I know there were some people that had questions about this with recording work sessions, and if there was any before you guys open it up for discussion, historically we have not recorded work sessions prior to this year, and partly because our work sessions kind of took the place of committee meetings, and this is something that we changed it from all these different committees to committee of the whole. And so long before I got here, and definitely before any of the board members are here, other boards had chosen not to record the work sessions. Not saying you can't or whatever, but just to give some background. So when the board gave a direction in August, which was if we're going to talk about school closures or boundary changes or sale of buildings on a meeting, make sure that meeting is recorded if any of those meetings are recorded. So the last work session didn't have any of those topics on it. So didn't have the meeting recorded. It wasn't in an effort to bypass transparency or anything like that. It was an effort to maintain what we've always been doing, with the exception of the directive related to those things. And so I just wanted to make sure I was just upfront with people, because I know there's been some people that have commented online, or you guys maybe have gotten some emails about it, that this, not recording the meetings is not a new thing. Recording the meetings would be the new thing. So I'm open to whatever the board chooses they want to do. You just, got to give me direction on that, but I felt like we were following the direction that I was given back in August of 2025, which was only record the work sessions that were related to that school closure stuff. So that being said, I just wanted to make sure I gave some background.
The reason I asked this to be put on the agenda was because I did receive 2 emails and then one email that came in through the district line. And one was just asking for, hey, what happened to the, I was confused. One was, hey, this is a breach of trust. You made a promise. You did this, you did that. And I'm like, I don't, transparency an issue, and we know we try and be as transparent as we possibly can, and we follow all the posting rules. And so I wanted to discuss it because I think it's maybe a little miscommunication. People expected it would be there forever. Some local municipalities do record and live stream their committee meetings. Many do not. Not all school boards record and their work sessions and their meetings, or they have committee meetings that aren't recorded. I'm of the mind that we have nothing to hide, and we are very transparent in what we act, and we welcome people to come here. So I don't have a problem with if we're going to do the 2 meetings, the main school board meeting and the work session. But I would encourage the public that it says right on the link, if it's not there. I don't like making it, mandatory. There are certain meetings that we have where we might come in and go right to a closed session and then have to come out of the closed session. I don't think that's reasonable to record, a motion to go into closed session, and an hour later come back and a motion to come back in. So, we didn't make it a policy. It was never an issue that we would, if we want to keep doing it, I'm fine with those 2 meetings. I do think the AI discussion was an example of something that, was very interesting and the community could have heard or benefited from that. But we also, we don't have a whole lot of people that stream in, unless there's a really major thing going on, and those are on your monthly meetings, not the work sessions. So, unless anybody has thoughts on that, Molly?
Mr. President, yeah, of course I have thoughts, right? I feel very much 50-50 about whether we record or not. I don't think we have anything to hide, of course. I think there is sort of a dialogue that goes back and forth on work session meetings, if they're not recorded, that I think is really productive. I don't think people want to have a gotcha moment, and I think that's what we fear a little bit. We don't want, people are put on the spot. Teachers don't always like to be, it's a lot for them to have to come and be recorded. It's a big deal. We're a little bit used to it. The other part I feel like is, this is totally fine. I'm absolutely, let's record everything of these, what we're able to, like you said, doesn't make sense for some. The other thing that it just strikes me, and this is a little bit of a scold, but I'm going to do it anyway, is that democracy requires effort. And if you want to participate in our school district and know what's going on, it will require effort. Whether you have to turn on your computer and watch something that is maybe kind of boring as we get to almost our third full hour here, not all of it's going to be exciting. The other thing is you may have to come in person to some things to actually, get something out of it. With that said, I totally understand people are busy. They have kids and lives, and, recording does give people the opportunity to listen to something when it fits their schedule, or listen to it in the car when they're driving to work, which I totally would do. So I think, yeah, let's go for it, record everything. It's fine with me. I think we're a delightful group.
And entertaining, right?
And
Brian?
entertaining, and we have a great staff and admin, so bring it on.
Brian?
Thanks, Molly. I think I generally am in the same place as you. I'm kind of agnostic on whether we record work sessions or not. One point you made that I want to underscore is I do think that, you know, us as elected officials, we signed up for this, and being on camera and having discussions on camera, that's part of what we're doing. We knew we were doing it. I do think of, you know, last week we had some teachers here, and we do live in a world where people capture things, post them, take them out of context, and I do think that's a little unfair, and it maybe sometimes will result in those teachers not being frank with us in those situations and really having an open conversation. But that said, we started putting the work sessions online in a very contentious year. I know I think people got used to it, and we can't necessarily put the genie back in the bottle on this. So end of the day, I think I'm fine with, I guess, kind of our regular meetings and work sessions. Special meetings, probably not as often, I would think. They tend to be more sort of closed session if they're occurring.
Okay, Erin?
Thank you. I'm curious, is there a cost to record these meetings? I mean, I don't want to make an assumption. Is there?
Not yet.
Not yet. I agree with what was said. We are living in a world of technology, supporting that in our district. I'm kind of sitting at the question of, really, why would we not want to continue to record it, to bring the community in where we can? WASB actually had a really great article last year in their April issue. I happen to have read it. And it highlights tools and practices to improve transparency with the community with modern governance, including digital access, which includes recording and live streaming of meetings. And they are encouraging that to build trust and accountability. It also builds board credibility. And the bottom line is consistency is key. We don't want to record some meetings and then not record other meetings, because then we end up in that limbo area. I would personally rather have the recordings done by us for that accountability piece and the credibility piece, versus somebody coming and feeling like they have to do snippets and post them and maybe take things out of context and frame things in a way that suits them and not the board. I am very concerned about that, and I do feel that that has definitely been a positive thing with everything going on. People have, the ones that, I also agree with what Molly said, is you do have to make an effort to listen, to be part of it, but the community is has asked for how they can get more involved with the board, how do they know what's going on, and this is probably the simplest way we can at least offer that piece. Now, whether they choose to take it or not is up to them, but it is out there. So I would like to see them continue to be recorded.
And I think to piggyback on that too is, as a board, we should probably run our, the work sessions are pretty casual, pretty, it's hard to be a devil's advocate on a system. If if somebody's listening, that's gonna jump on it, right? So I don't want the creativity and that type of approach to lose, but I would, as president, probably run the boards with a little more process and a little more like our regular meetings then, and just as far as recognizing people and, trying to keeping that if people agree that that's. Okay, Kate?
President, with work sessions, I prefer the free flow of conversation, because I think that's what a work session is meant to be. These board meetings are, you go through each agenda item and we are recognized to speak. I think there's something to a work session in the very nature of the title, that we're kind of going back and forth on what everybody's thinking, getting people's opinions, and I think the formality of having to recognize and whatnot takes away from that creativity and flow. That's my opinion. I also just think it's important to know how many people have asked about the work session, how many people are watching or do watch work sessions versus regular ones. I would just be interested.
I don't know how many emails you guys have gotten. I think I'm only aware of 3 total that Bob has gotten in relation to this. And I would say, as far as viewership, I don't want to burst your bubbles, but you're not getting a lot. You're not getting a lot of views. But it really depends. I mean, on items that are highly contentious, obviously you get more views. I mean, you know, during COVID, we would get 3,000 or 4,000 views, right? I would say a more reasonable average would be, you know, 50, 100, you know, views total. The thing is, you have to remember is every time you click on it, it's a new view. I always watch how things are going on the meetings. Like right now, there are 14 people watching. I can tell you, I know at least 4 of them that are watching are within this room of the 14. So, you know, it's, and 0 in the audience here. So, but yeah, I mean, we don't have a specific stat. And we tend to, if something's going to be very controversial, we've either moved it to the auditorium, we have recorded something, and things like that. We have tried to go out of our way to make things accessible. And that's been a common practice, but.
Well, and I don't want to make it look like I'm, you know, too reactionary, but, you know, one of the things that was disheartening as a board member during the last year was, you know, you guys aren't listening, you don't trust, you know, we don't trust you, you have an agenda, it's moving, you know, you're not listening to us. But yes, I mean, 3 emails, and I put it on the agenda. And of those emails, or anybody else that, you know, commented or did any online about it, no one's here to speak on it. So, but I did feel it was important to bring it on. And you know what, I mean, I totally agree with Kate, you know, as far as not wanting to lose that. But I just worry that, you know, I mean, if going forward, I just want to make sure that you know, I don't even know how to word it.
Sure. So
help me out, Maria.
Yeah, what I'm wondering here is, you know, walking into tonight about this, I was sitting in the agnostic camp. I was kind of like, I'm 50-50. You know, I know prior to being on the board, it took me a beat to realize what was happening, how the discussions were slightly different in working sessions, and being able to come, you know, that, yep, it took some logistics on my part with, you know, my kids were in elementary and husband who travels a lot. Yeah, it was a little bit of a Tetris game. So, but I think 2 things struck me in this conversation tonight that it making me lean a little bit one way, and that is, Brian, something you said about, you know, our teachers come a lot to the working sessions, and that's a big ask for them to come and present something that they're working on. And while we signed up for a very public role of having our words scrutinized, they're presenting on their work as professionals in this space to help us understand what they're doing. And I want to give that as much safety as possible for them to feel comfortable to give us the candid, here's how I'm thinking about this and what's going on. And that doesn't preclude somebody from coming to the working sessions. Those are always open. And again, there was nobody at our working session last week, nobody here tonight to speak and during public comment. I received 0 emails. It sounds like maybe handful, onesie, twosies here or there across the board. And Kate's comment, I think, is a fair one. There is a different cadence in that to something, Molly, you talked about earlier, of that, you know, being able to have a little bit of that devil's advocate. I'm measuring myself a little bit more here now as we're having this conversation. It's that ebb and flow. I wonder if we just monitor it for a while and kind of remain with our commitment that says if we're going to be talking about a school closure or a building sale and it's during a working session, that's recorded. And let's just see. And then we know there's a commitment on this part, like Nick said, hot topics, we have a sense. We move it to the auditorium when we sense people are coming. If we're sitting here saying, we have another big issue coming down, we're gonna be talking about some substantive budget or goodness knows what could be coming down, we have that flexibility to say, this is of absolute critical nature, we're recording all of these, or those are reserved for board meetings where we are recording them. I think there's that flexibility and that we don't lose that transparency. We continue to meet the standards and above and beyond of what it is. There are school boards that are not, quite frankly, doing that, and they're still meeting the letter of the law. I'm okay with where we're at, kind of just thinking about this conversation as a whole. And one of the things I appreciate about this board and the makeup is the diversity of the thinking, and it challenges mine sometimes to say, where should I fall?
Shannon, would you have an opinion you'd like to share with us?
Well, I can tell you just most recently with the teachers who were here to present, when I asked them at the task force who would be willing to present, there wasn't one volunteer. That seems very intimidating. It really did. And when I said it's a work session and it won't be recorded, you see what I got. I mean, I could do a little more bribing if I had to, but I can tell you that just in our most recent one, that was the tipping point in getting a few volunteers here.
Mr. President,
Megan?
you know, hearing that, it concerns me, the idea of recording every work session. That I came in pretty agnostic. I don't care. I kind of talk the same way no matter what's going on. But it's hard for teachers and staff to come in and talk about hard things, and then you feel like you have to say every word perfectly, or does something not come out just right, and then I don't want to do that to our teachers and staff.
Yeah, that's a big, it's true. I enjoyed that discussion, the last work session, very much, and the passion that the teachers shared and the openness. Aaron?
I hear you that it's hard, but they're teaching our kids. And we're watching these kids come up and do incredible, amazing things. And it's probably because they have a great teacher that's behind them, and we heard them celebrating that. And I feel that we've done this pretty flawlessly for the last 6 months. I don't feel like, and maybe teachers are holding back, but I feel like we've had some really good sessions in here and conversations with teachers and presenters. And I think that it's important that for those, even if it is a handful of people that are watching it, that's a handful of people more than you had engaged than you would without. And I think it's important to continue that and not change the format of the work sessions. I agree with Kate on that, and I don't think we need to scrutinize and get tighter on that. It's really nice, and Kate's been really great about this and very appreciative that when we have voted on big things, you do tend to, thank you very much for bringing up and saying, let's have a little talk about where we were coming at and angled. Some people want more, and they want to hear specifically what Megan said, what Maria said, what Molly said. And they can go back and they can find that and they can listen to it so it's not paraphrased. The thing with the recording is we don't have to put on anything different than we're already doing. We're already doing it. We've been doing it and it's been successful. So to not do it now, it seems, I don't know, as a community member, if I were watching that, I would think, well, what the heck are they trying to hide? And that's, you know, you're gonna get backlash no matter what if we take that away. But there's no cost to it, and this is easy to do, and we're technology driven, and we're trying to lead the way. Maria is absolutely right. There are boards that do not record any meetings, and they have a big problem going on with a lot of that right now. We don't need to be part of that. That's.
Well, Brian?
You started talking, I was kind of putting myself in line. but I can.
I was just gonna say, would we have an agreement to just table this and continue recording work sessions for the time being? Or, because it's 9 o'clock? No.
Mr. President.
Yes.
I was gonna, the status quo is actually that we don't record them. We recorded them for the school closure discussions. I kind of disagree. 2 weeks ago, it was much more relaxed in this room. We did have a more free-flowing discussion, and I've been swayed. I said I was agnostic, and in this discussion, I do feel like some very valid points have been made, and one that you made, Maria, that I think is important, that we don't have to do this right now. We can wait and see. We do summarize our work session discussions. Kate does a great job. You kind of lead that way, but in general, we do that when we have a discussion at the next recorded meeting. We talk about what we talk about, and I think if we move forward and wait and see if, there's a real challenge and folks are really saying we need to know, then maybe we readjust. But it's been one meeting. There were 3 emails. I got 0 of them also. It may be okay to continue this way, and then, we can adjust. But it's a good discussion. I kind of changed my mind.
I think many of us have changed our mind. So, do we need to have, if we can't come to kind of an agreement, do we?
Mr. President,
Yes, Megan.
can I make a motion?
You can,
Should I not?
no, go ahead.
Okay, I couldn't tell. I make a motion to table this discussion for now and continue with the status quo of not recording work sessions as we see what we hear. And
Can I add a friendly amendment to that?
Mhm.
I wonder if we talk about it again in a certain period of time to see kind of gauge where we're at.
Does anyone think that kind of it was like we should have announced or made some announcement that we were not going to record or that we were moving all of because we're having less discussion about the closing of schools, to that we were, if they knew we were all going to be discussing any of that at the regular meeting? I mean, it doesn't change anything. We can go ahead with them. We have a motion and we have
I second the motion with
the friendly
amendment. I think love the friendly amendment of, it's always good to keep monitoring, so I second.
Okay, we have a motion and we have a second. No other discussion. I'll say, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so we are, you have your directive. We are tabling it and going with our standard procedure. And to clarify your friendly amendment, just to hear it one more time.
My friendly amendment was that we should review it in a certain period of time, and I think we should probably make that period of time so that it's cemented. So whether it's, 3 months or, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Is everyone okay with the 3-month?
Just one clarification. So we'll still be recording when we talk about school closures, anything with the sale of buildings, that sort of thing. I think we should perhaps have a notice, which I don't know how you do that, but to say we're not going to be recording so people can make an effort to come. They don't have an expectation, because I think that is a little bit difficult. If you think, oh, it's going to be online, I don't need to go. Huh?
We can put it at the top of the agenda, this meeting's not being live streamed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on to first reading update of policy 443.5.
So this is the same policy that you saw at the work session. Essentially, it's what you heard Mike present on earlier, the personal electronic device policy, when they passed the state law that said you have to have a policy, we already had a set of procedures in place as it related to our handbook. This just basically puts it into board policy. The administration's recommendation that you'd approve the first reading of this. You'll see it again in June, in which you would approve the second reading. In that case, then it becomes policy.
Mr. President?
Molly?
I'm going to be Kate, and I'm going to read what we talked about at the work session. The difference in the policy is that it added smartwatches, includes backpacks. There's a different policy for the middle school and the high school, appropriate to their age, matches the new state law, which Nick just referenced.
Okay,
That's it.
looking for motion?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the first reading of policy number 443.5. Yeah, that's it.
Second from Aaron. No questions. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Then moving to international travel proposal with Shannon.
So this was what you saw at the work session also, just looking for approval for the high school trip to Germany that will be the summer of 2027.
Okay.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the international travel policy for German trip.
Second?
Second from Kate. Do I have any other, no questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The motion passes. Next, driver's education contract renewal.
Chartwell's.
Oh, Chartwell, sorry.
Bonnie's been waiting the whole night to talk about this. To say, recommend approval.
With one caveat, Kate made some great, comments about how do we evaluate our, renewal. So they have offered, it's that bottom link, a visioning invitation. So they would bring representatives from their company to meet with administration, board members who'd like to participate, and to develop our vision for our food service program. And then once we establish that, then we would kind of make criteria for our renewal. So then if they meet the vision, then we would have something that we are all talking about. So I thought it was a nice step in the right direction.
Very much so, thank you.
Yep.
I mean, perhaps, should I recap this?
You could recap it if you'd like.
Okay, never mind.
But we have you on the committee to be on that, Kate.
Awesome.
Anybody else would like to, let us know.
If there's food, I'll be there.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. President.
Yes, Brian.
Make a motion to approve the 26-27 Chartwell's contract extension.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Molly. If there are no questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, that motion passes. And now I would entertain a motion to convene. Oh,
Now it's-
driver's education.
Now me.
I'm losing
Getting
it,
late.
folks.
Yeah,
We
so
shouldn't be recording this.
Yeah, so this is your second look at the contract for driver's ed through Northwood Tech. Just looking for approval for this contract. And I too, just after the work session, looked into possibility of other places that we could get contracts with. And so that's still kind of in the works. There's a few out there, very similar in cost. Some of them said they may not have the capacity to deal with the number of students because they're private, but they're looking into that for me. And also Northwood Tech is putting together a satisfaction survey for us, for the students that we have in that program.
Wow, that's awesome.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And I do think, perhaps another one doesn't have capacity for all those kids, but if we had several contracts to offer, that'd be great.
Yep.
Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the contract for driver's ed with Northwood Tech as presented.
Thank you, Megan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Aaron. With no questions, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Now I would entertain
Mr.
a motion.
President?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to convene in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 19.85, paren 1, paren E, to negotiate the settlement agreement related to the brick contractor at North Hudson Elementary.
Second.
Second for Molly. If no questions, I'll do a roll call vote. Dahl.
Aye.
Garza.
Aye.
Gerlach. Powers.
Aye.
Brzezowski.
Aye.
Rudy. Bauman, aye. We are now in closed session, but I will say, we will be coming back from closed session, reconvening to possible take action. Thank you. Back in open session. And I would entertain a motion.
Mr. President?
Yes, Megan?
I make a motion to approve the settlement agreement, and authorize Bob and Molly to sign it.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Maria, I believe. All those in favor, say aye.
Mr. President?
Oh, yes, Brian.
Could we just, for sake of transparency, Nick, maybe just 2 sentences on
what the motion is?
Yeah.
Yes, so this is a settlement agreement related to the brick contractor at North Hudson Elementary School. And so this is a credit that the district will be receiving as it relates to work that was done on the building.
Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
If no other questions or additions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none. Motion passes. Go for it.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I
I'd
make a
like to
motion to adjourn. I'm doing it.
I think Aaron got that one.
Second.
Second by Megan. Brian is shut out. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed,